Ara waja nienda kwa mgeni atuambie inakuaje, atuambie jibu bum 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 nani. Ana Johanna gana.
Yeah, thank
you. Good to see you sir.
Thank you so much. Kwanza nataka nishukuru.
Tafadhali karibisha mic yako kidogo ili tuweze kusikia vizuri zaidi.
Yeah, nataka nishukuru.
Iko very sanitized. So siko na wasiwasi.
Asante. Nataka kushukuru Mwenyezi Mungu for allowing us this particular morning to be with you people from the taco. Secondly, nataka pia nishukuru wasikizaji wetu wote ambao watatusikiza na kutuwatch mahali popote walipo. My name is Johanna Kipiegon, member of parliament for EMURUA DIKIR. EMURUA DIKIR is a constituency which is in Narok, Narok County. I'm a second-term member of parliament.
Ule umesurvive hii samaki ya John yenye namezanga watu.
I was supposed to be a third member of parliament. I first contested in Kilgore's constituency in 2007, an election that went haywire because of some few issues. And,
the election ended haywire or you went haywire? You know,
no, the election,
we can never tell. We can never be sure.
Yeah, that was an election of that year because we had an election. Somebody won and not declared, but then the ballot papers and all that was counted there was destroyed. We had to go for a by-election. So that was an election that went haywire. It's an election that you go for a by-election when you already knew the winner. Is an election that goes haywire. After that, we had the IEBC, the then IEBC, Interim Electoral and Boundaries Commission, dividing our constituency. And that is when now I contested on 2013. And that is why I'm saying I'm a second-term member of parliament. Should have been a third term. Good. I'm on Kanu. Yeah, I'm on.
You still in Kanu?
I'm still in Kanu. That is my the ticket that brought me to parliament is Kanu. My first time I came with KNC, Kenya National Congress, but now I'm on Kanu. Still in Kanu.
And you're not going anywhere?
I'm not going anywhere until the elections are called.
And there's nobody who can do anything about it?
Nothing. You can do nothing about that. You cannot do it.
Mbona utatuuliza kwa nini mtadu?
So tell us about your journey. Where have you come from? And how did you find yourself here?
As in my political journey?
Umetoka wapi everything? Mahali umetoka ukaingiaje kwa siasa? Sababu huko saliwa kwa mwanasiasa of course.
I think I joined politics in 202. 202, that is when not participating in the election as a contestant, but assisting somebody who was contesting at that particular time. That was in Kilgore's. We were previously Kilgore's constituency, and we had so many issues in Kilgore's until we opted that we need to change the leadership of that particular constituency. That was when I began that journey. I started assisting the member of parliament, who is still currently the member of parliament for Kilgore's. We assisted him, and he ascended to power. After that, I went abroad. When I came back in 2006, around December there, I found that the leadership that we had installed in Kilgore's were not working. Was not working properly. So our people asked me, the people from Kilgore's constituency asked me to contest because the leadership that we helped or we assisted to lead was not working properly. So that is when I started my journey now officially. I started contesting for the then Kilgore's constituency until the election date. I contested first on an ODM ticket.
Oh man, about ODM.
Yes, I was in ODM in 2007. And that is where I met my friend, Raila Odinga. He helped me to know politics. I learned much from him. I would say I was a student, a very ardent student. Contested in ODM. Unfortunately, due to the issues that we have in parties, when the ballot papers came, my name was not there. I was not in, and I was the front runner. You can imagine. But then when the ballot papers, when the ballot boxes were opened, my name was not
Hauko.
there. So
Ojwang atakupea testimony ya Odi.
yes, so what we did, we tried to persuade the leadership of ODM at that time to rewrite the ballot papers. They refused. We asked for Mlolongo, which never took off. So eventually when we found that we could not, and the time was running, the time was not on our side, so eventually we decided that we should go to another party. That was the day I decided that I should not be contesting on big parties because of what happened on that particular day. So I went to Kadu.
You decided to go small.
I decided to go to Kadu, Jirongo's party. And that was the party that actually made me win that election in Kilgoris. But then, of course, like I told you, after the ballot papers, after the votes were counted, by morning, around 4, I was leading with 24,000, followed by the incumbent member of parliament with 10,000. But then, you know, the politics of tribalism in this country, which has actually eaten the fabric of the society, made my winning not declared. Because leaders from that particular region stood and said that I am not from the community, the native community, and therefore
that is a massive
I was not supposed to be the member of parliament. And fracases started, and the ballot boxes were destroyed, and vita ikatokea, mambo mingi ikafanyika hapo. So we went to court, we contested, but then after sometimes when they realized the order to retally was out, the place which was housing the ballot papers was burned down. So all the ballot papers went up in flames. We had nothing to retally. So the constituency was declared, the seat for member of parliament was declared vacant. We had to go for a by-election. So we stayed in that constituency for 6 months without a member of parliament. After that, we went to ODM came back for me because they realized I was the
you were strong on the ground.
Like what they were told. So they came for me. I took the ticket. I contested in a by-election in 2008, which was hotly contested, and it was actually so tribal. It was so tribal that the two communities who were living there, each community was voting for their candidate. And I ended up losing. I got that 1,000. My serious contender got 33. So I considered defeat, and I told them that there is always another time. Lucky enough, when Legally team came to our constituency, they opted to divide the constituency, and that is how I came to EMURUA. Now in 2013, I contested on Kenya National Congress because I had that fear. I had that fear of big parties, the way they were rigging people, the way they were manipulating the results and all that. So I contested on a KNC ticket, and I won. 2017, I also decided to contest on Kano. I wanted to avoid the big party, the Jubilee, which was actually the party of the moment in those particular areas. I contested in Kano, and I won. Yeah.
Ukabeba kiti yako.
Nikabeba kiti yangu.
Oh,
here I am.
And here you are.
Yeah.
And we're happy to see you. Now, a quick one. Another thing also. Congratulations, by the way. So you are ranked second by Ipsos Innovate. Wakazi ambao unafanya mtaani, makofi kwako. Thank you so much for what you're doing on the ground. That's that unatufanyia. You're really doing us proud. Yeah. So, you know, Ipsos ranked you second, you know, in terms of utilization of you as a leader, in terms of CDF as well, the development on the ground. Yes. What are some of these projects, and what does it make you feel, first of all? How does it make you feel?
You know, initially when you are doing something for the society, especially when you look at the background that I came from, how I have been trying to contest to become a member of parliament, the major reason was to change the society, to change how things were done. When you look at leadership that maybe you helped to attain power, and then they fail to do what they had promised the people, you feel that at least you have something that you can offer to the community, to the areas that you come from. So that is one of the reasons that made us to contest. When I contested, I said to myself, the kind of education system which was in our area was bad. I looked at several issues. One of the major issues which I wanted to change was education. majorly education. Secondly, I also wanted to change the kind of road networks in our constituency, because we never had roads, we never had hospitals, we never had so many facilities that would assist the people. So my manifesto was to ensure that we compete with the rest of the constituencies on matters of education. Mind you, when I took the seat on 2013, I had only 9 secondary schools in my constituency, but now we have over 33.
Over 33 from 9?
From 9. We had around 54 primary schools. Now we have 120 primary schools, courtesy of the facilitation that we had through the CDF. And sometimes when people talk about CDF in a bad way, some of us who understand how CDF has brought our people from where they were to where we are today, we feel bad, because other than the CDF, we do not have any other access to other resources. Sometimes even the county becomes hard to access the resources in the counties. It's also become hard to access the resources in the national government. So sometimes when we have this CDF, however small, however little the money is, it has assisted the people of EMURUA and so many other constituencies which have seriously utilized. So when I looked at what I have done, what we have done as CDF, especially through my oversight, because as a member of parliament, my role is majorly oversight.
Oversight, yes.
Through my oversight, I've seen EMURUA grow to be like many other constituencies. In terms of roads, we've done several roads through KERA and also through CDF. Several roads. Where we had only one road, we have over 30 roads. And then when you look at the issue of hospitals, hospitals, we never had many dispensaries. Actually, we never had even a hospital in our constituency. But we've tried. Although CDF were denied the role of building hospitals or dispensaries. There was some initially before the governors contested, we used to build dispensaries, and we did that. And when we look at how people have been, assisted in those particular dispensaries, you just thank God that He gave you the idea of doing that. So when I looked back, today when I look back, I would say I've done that God allowed me to do. That was within my capacity.
And
so
you'll do
when I
more.
was ranked, when those people came and ranked me, I said thank God, because I was so happy, not for me alone, but for the people of EMURUA, because at least for the first time, they felt that somebody has tambuad ile kazi ambayo tumefanyia raia. Hata mimi mwenyewe, I said, at least somebody has tambua kwamba kuna kazi nimefanya.
Na nimeona kuna watu hapa pia wanatambua hapa.
Yes.
Wakomeza wanasema unafanya kazi mzuri sana kwa ground.
So there are major projects which we actually initiated other than the schools and of course the dispensaries and roads. I had looked at how and the location of my constituency. We never had the technical institutes, and I would say the introduction of the technical training institutes was a major boost in my constituency, because my constituency never had a single college and any institution of higher learning. We never had even a driving school in my constituency. But now as we speak, we have had the TTI, which was in conjunction with the CDF and the national government. And then I initiated the construction of Kenya Medical Training College,
KMTC,
which we have done, we have completed, and as we speak now, we already have students who've been admitted. They have not reported yet because of the COVID, but we already have students admitted to that particular Kenya Medical Training College. That is one of the major projects which I looked at, because when you look at my constituency, the situation, where it is situated, the KMTCs which are near is Kisii and in Longisa, which is in Bombay County. But the whole of Narok do not have a Kenya Medical Training College. That was a project that I looked at and said, if we could have a Kenya Medical Training College within our area, then our students, our children, our daughters, our sons can have access to these particular institutions, and like many other Kenyans will also have an opportunity to study. And so many other projects we've done, like we are doing now. We are drilling water for some other schools, and we build so many institutions. I mean, so many facilities in the institutions of like secondary schools, building dormitories and laboratories and libraries and all that. So generally, I'm proud of how far we've come as EMURUA DIKIR constituency, with the assistance of the people who are assisting me to actually meet all those they asked me to do for them. I'm very grateful.
All right. As we roll that conversation, and I'm happy that kama unatoka EMURUA DIKIR, tafadhali utuambie una rate vipi mbunge wako out of 10. How do you rate your MP out of 10? Una rate vipi mbunge wako kama unatoka EMURUA DIKIR? Utuambie sasa, mheshimiwa. Yes. Why is it that what's your relationship with you and trouble? Ni nini mnapendana na trouble everywhere? Your firebrand politics, you seem to be inviting trouble every other time this week.
Surely they tell me I'm a robber or something. You know, I do not. I think it is where I was brought up. The intimidation, the kind of treatment that we went through. I will tell you, from independence, where we come from, we have had all those type of, intimidation, manipulations, and kind of mistreatment. So we kind of grew up tukijua ya kwamba unless you struggle, you will never meet whatever you want to have. Unless you work hard, unless you fight for the position, unless you fight for space, unless you tackle the government, unless you talk to the government directly, they will never look at you, they will never help you, they will never listen. And nobody listens, by the way. The only time they will listen is when you cause trouble. That is when they will listen. And that is how I learned. So I've also learned that if you want these people to know that there's some problem somewhere, you have to be a troublemaker. You have to, and that is against the government, not against anybody. Myself, I've always said, my fight is with the government. My fight is with the government of the day, not anybody, but the government of the day. That is how I was brought up, and that is what I think is the best way to tackle this government. Because when you look at the government, the way it's operating, it is working in a way that you will never understand even why they are in government in the first place. So that is why I said, kazi yangu ni kuchongoa serikali, kazi yangu ni kuambia serikali ukweli, kazi yangu ni kuuliza yenye raia wanafaa kufanyiwa, kazi yangu ni kuangalia kwamba pesa ya serikali imefanyika ama imetumika vizuri. Kama haijatumika vizuri, kazi yangu ni kuuliza kwa nini? Why? So that is why sometimes wananiambia ati I'm a troublemaker, which I'm not, but I think that is how politicians are.
Are you sure you're not a troublemaker?
I think I'm not a troublemaker per se. I could be a rebel rosa, but you see, it is not because of ati kupenda kwangu. It is because I feel kwamba serikali hii lazima iamushwe every now and then. So lazima iamushwe, iambiwe kwamba hujafanya hii, hujafanya hiyo, unafaa kufanya hii. That is it. And when you look at what I've been Kenya nimekuwa nikifungwa because the last time nilifungwa, that was my 9th safari yangu ya 9 kufungwa.
So mazoea kitu
nimefungwa mara mingi sana. Na sio kwa sababu ati I'm a criminal. In fact, hakuna kesi yenye imeenda beyond kusikizwa and then
beyond Nakuru. Hakuna yenye imepita sana. Hakuna imepita
kesi yenye imepita kiwango ya kutoa verdict kusema sasa wewe utafungwa ama utapigwa fine. Hakuna. Ni ile tu unawekwa up to some point. Wanasema kila kitu cool down, achilia yeye sasa waende. So something like that. So mimi nimefungwa mara mingi sana, na sababu ni kwamba nimekuwa nikiuliza the government of the day, kwa nini mnafanya hivi? Kwa nini hamfanyi hivi? Kwa nini mna cause hivi? Kwa nini mna support vitu yenye sio vizuri ama sio mzuri kwa raia? Those are the only reasons that I've been arrested. So I'm not saying I've been arrested on criminal charges per se. No.
So ya juzi ulikuwa umeshikwa juu ulifanya nini sasa?
Ya juzi nilishikwa. Okay, there were so many speculations, people you talk, unaenda mkutano unaongea, alafu baadaye watu wanatoa analysis, wana-analyze hii yenye umesema hapa ni incitement, hii yenye umesema hapa ni sijui ni nini, hii nye umesema hapa ni nini. But according to me, you know, of course, the case which is in court, and Mr. OJWANG will tell you, is sub judice. They said I incited the communities, which of course never happened, because my reference was only to leadership. And sometimes this is where the problem is when we talk. Kwamba, sometimes when we elect leaders, when you elect me as Johanna Gano, you do not elect me as a Kalenjin or as a Kipsigis person. You elect me as a leader. When you elect a governor, you elect a governor not based on his tribe, but he should be elected based on his manifesto. When you elect a president is elected not because of his tribe, not because of his community. And that is where the conversation should begin. That we should not be electing leaders just because they are our tribes.
They are tribes, yes.
So when you address a leader, whether he's a president, he's a prime minister, he's a deputy president, he's a member of parliament, or he's a governor, when you address him on the wrongs and the ills he has done to the society, you do not address him as a tribe. So that when you say whatever you say, whether it is bad or good, you are not talking about the tribe where the person is coming from. Because the moment somebody is elected as a president of the Republic of Kenya, he ceases to be a member of a community. He becomes a figure of national unity. He becomes, you know, he holds a title of all the communities that are living within his territory. So sometimes when you address a person, and people attribute it to meaning that you are abusing the community that he comes from, is wrong. So I think so many people did some analysis, and I looked at how some other people were demonstrating and saying that, oh, you are abusing the this community, you are abusing that. But what is in court is different, totally different from what those people were talking about. What is in court is incitement. And the incitement that they claim that I talked about is when I talked about Mao. When I talked about what are the blocks in Mao, those, you know, the forest cover, what percentage it is, and what percentage is in which county, what percentage is in this county, and all that. But that one is a case that I do not want to dwell on, because it is just an incitement based on the statement I raised on Mao. But the other issues, some people might think that niliongea vipi, niliongeaje, hiyo hata haikufika hata haikutoka hata police station.
Ilikuishia police station.
Ilikuishia police station milango ya police station.
Oh, I don't know kwa siasa. You are seen as a very fierce critic of the deputy president sometimes back, and a lot of videos to that effect. You were seen criticizing the DP and telling him, "Apa, hakuna mahali unapata." The things have changed today. Leo siku hizi uko na yeye, wewe ndio unanyonga watu, mtu anajaribu kukaribia unaambia unavunja shingo. What changed? What changed in politics? What informed your criticism and what informed your change of heart?
You know, somebody said it's only a fool who can never change his mind. Secondly, somebody also said, I think a good philosopher said that in politics, nothing is permanent other than the interest. So sometimes we can change our minds based on issues, ideas, and philosophies and all that. But when the interest of the people you represent, when they meet with that of the person, of your adversary, you have nothing but
you have to change
to work with. I would say when I was tackling the deputy president, I was tackling the deputy president at that particular moment on what he was doing at that particular moment. And
did he stop doing it?
There's something that he changed. There's something that changed that actually also made me to change my heart. You know, the government, venye serikali imekuwa ikitreat watu, and that was my major complaint at that particular time. That let's allow freedom of speech. Let us allow people to associate with whoever they want to associate. Let us allow people to worship wherever they want to do that. You know, when I was contesting in EMURUA DIKIR, it is largely a Kipsigis constituency, although it is in Narok.
Yeah.
Many people were telling me that I should contest in the party where the deputy president comes from. That is Jubilee.
Yes.
That was where I told them I will not. I'm not a tribalist. I do not want to follow this person because he's from my clan or from my community.
From my community.
No. I want to follow somebody's ideas. If he has good ideologies, if he has good manifesto, that is when I can tell you I will follow him. So he would come to my constituency and ask the people not to vote me just because I contested in a different ticket from his. So that was when I used to tell him, my friend, if that is a trend, this seat, hii yenye unaitafuta, utaionea kio. That is what I used to tell him. But you see, as the time goes, I think the guy also looked at he must have watched the videos and said, I think actually we should be moving in a direction where we should not polarize this country based on tribes. And when you see what he's doing now, he's trying to bring all the communities together. Somebody was even asking him, why are you not visiting Rift Valley? You know, that person has tribal mentality. When you ask him, why are you not visiting Rift Valley? It's like you are telling him, you are a Kalenjin. And
why are you not
I
coming
don't believe the way he is now is no longer a Kalenjin. He's a national figure. And I'm happy on what he's doing, where the way he's trying to bring all the communities together, bringing the Kikuyus, the Luos, the Lucias, the Kambas, and even leaving behind the Kalenjins ndio hata now waanze kumfuata from nyuma huko. That is the leadership that we want. So when I looked at how he has changed his tact in handling the communities in this country, in handling the national matters in this country, in handling the leadership, and let me tell you, when Ruto also started criticizing the government that he comes from, I felt this is the man, this is the right guy to follow. Because if, you know, sometimes we are accused of sycophancy. And especially, I would say that as a member of parliament, that what is killing parliament is sycophancy. People who do not reason. They only wait until they receive or they get a phone call so that they can do what is supposed to be done by them. So there are some issues which I looked at and I said, this gentleman is now doing what I feel it should have been done by a person of his caliber. And that is why our ideas, our interests came together and we started having this, reading from the same page. That is why we are now.
So uliaga hapi kio yenye alikuwa aone urais?
You know in politics, my friend,
Kio uliaga wapi? Where is the queue?
If you are to see the video from the beginning, sasa zingine Bitok labda uliona from where inasema tu utaonea ikio, utaonea ikiti kwa kio.
Lakini tunaona view sasa bana.
Ukiona from where he started tackling his issues. I raised pertinent issues. I told him we are in Narok. And we are different communities in Narok. And when you come here and tell us as Kalenjins that you should do ABCD, we won't accept that. Why? Because we are in Narok, we are in a cosmopolitan county. We have to learn to live with our brothers and sisters in this county. So if that is the trend you are following, my friend, then presidency will become an illusion. So you see, like I told you, don't look at the last bit that he was saying.
No, but then what are these ideologies zenye hakukuwa nazo before? The ideologies that he has not had for the past 27 years, that he has now gotten an epiphany and he has them, and you've decided to follow those ideologies? Because that is one thing I really struggle with.
You know, people grow. Let me tell you, Lucia, people grow. Even you grow. The ideas you had when you first joined this tackle are no longer the same ideas you had.
I hope not.
When people, you know, you learn. That is why we call learning is a process. It is not something you learn instantly and you stay with it. Learning is a process. You learn so many things as you go. So I think Deputy President, when he was in Kano, those days, his behavior is different from when he was in Kano and when he was in ODM. When he was in ODM, his character is different from when he's now or when he was in Jubilee the first time. What he's doing now is different from what he was or the kind of person he was when he was in URP. So it's a learning process. You learn so many things. Unajifunza kwamba kumbe saa zingine hizi vitu tunafanyia watu ni vitu tunaweza fanyiwa. Unaona? Hata Raila saa hii. Raila, my great friend. You know, I followed Raila for 15 good years. And I've been, the arrests that I've had or I've went through around sita hivi ni juu ya Raila. But now Raila has also learned that ati ni mzuri sasa kufanya kazi na Uhuru Kenyatta. Ati ni mzuri sasa wewe ndio unasema wakati serikali imeharibu, ati wewe sasa ndio unasema
serikali yako sawa.
Serikali yako sawa. So you see, things change.
Yeye ndiye anasema hata yeye ndiye anasema Jubilee imetengeneza barabara.
The problem is the interests of the politicians are not the interests of Wanjiku, and that is the problem.
Sometimes they might coincide, though.
Sometimes they coincide.
Because Shiko wants food on her table,
exactly,
and Baba wants an extra position in government.
Baba also wants food on the table. The difference, ugali yake ni kubwa ile ya Wajibu.
Even Baba has a stomach.
Baba has more than enough food on his table.
And then when it comes to the stomach, there's never enough.
A politician is also a human being.
Yeah.
Just like you. The needs you have are the needs he has.
I'm looking at you with a side eye.
The only difference is that sometimes their needs overrides the needs of the people. That is where sometimes mistakes inatokea. When you make your needs more important than ya Wanjiku mtu mwenye alikuchagua, that is when now you go overboard. So mimi siwezi sema ati Wanjiku wanatetewa every now and then. Like even when you look at this document, these people are just wanajaribu kutuambia tuifuate. It's never about Wanjiku.
It's never about Wanjiku. Thank you.
So you see, I'm with you on that. 80%, and mark this one, 80% of what us politicians do is towards our own personal interests. Not the interest of Wanjiku.
That's why it ends.
Hii Wanjiku tu kazi yenu 80% kazi yenu ni kupigia sisi tukura.
We like the honesty. The honesty is quite straight. You've told this before. Now, on the last one, part one.
Until you elect a leader. You know, we've been electing politicians.
Yeah.
Until that day that you elect a leader is when you can now have what we call 80% of the issues we tackle ni Wanjikos.
Bura sahi wangoje kwa leo.
As long as tunachagua wanasiasa.
Waone kio.
Wanakuja kufurahisha sisi, kupea sisi pesa.
In other words, we only have politicians in Kenya. We don't have leaders.
80%.
We have a shortage of leaders.
80% are politicians. 20% are leaders, and I'm happy I'm in that 20%.
and the evidence is there to speak on time.
Nadhani hapo tutapigana.
Amepigwa na hizo zinove. Na ana uhusiano na wazungu. Naona ni mweusi. Now, on the last part, part one, mheshimiwa. Mambo yako na KANU. Wewe umesema uko KANU. Juzi nimesikia KANU wanasema wanataka kukupiga teke. Bado hujapigwa teke, wanazungoja nini? What's happening in KANU? What changed your relation with KANU?
I think you know the problem with us as politicians and like you people, what we also see is that sometimes we want to make our personal interest override the interest of the people who elected you. At some point, KANU wanted me to follow Uhuru Kenyatta. And that is where we started having an issue. Because initially when I joined KANU, I joined KANU based not on the past, because I knew KANU in the past was a wrong party. But I joined KANU because of some few issues here and there. But then later on, when they told me that we must support Uhuru Kenyatta.
By fire, by thunder.
Yes. I told them, then why didn't I stand on Jubilee ticket?
Yeah.
Mbona nilikataa kusimama kwa Jubilee 2017? It is because I never heard that sikuwa na hiyo roho ya kusupport Uhuru Kenyatta. So later on they told me that we are going to Kasarani. Was it Kasarani or ilikuwa wapi? Ukaniambia tunaenda Kasarani. We are going to declare Uhuru as our presidential candidate. I told them I'm not going with you. My presidential candidate is Raila Odinga. So we parted ways at that time before election. So I told them, do you have any issue? My candidate is Raila Odinga. Wakaniambia ngonga hatuna issue. So I told them, okay, fine. Nendeni Kasarani, mimi naenda Bomet mahali Raila hapo. So I went to Bomet, I declared, I took my position, I told them I'm KANU, but you nitapigia kura NASA, which I did, of course. So you see, when we were elected and when all these issues wakaanza hii mambo ya handshake, wakaanza hii mambo ya mambo mingi, when Raila told me also tunaenda kusalamiana na Uhuru, nikamweleza my friend, mimi nilikataa kumpigia kura Uhuru 2013 2017. Sasa unaniambia twende tena tusalamie Uhuru. Tumemaliza kura Uhuru ni kwenda nyumbani tu. Sasa badala wewe kujitafutia kiti unaniambia turudi.
Unaniambia twende salamu.
Uhuru tukapata ways na Raila. When KANU also told me that we are in this handshake and therefore tunafanya ABCD, I told them, my friends, I'm not with you in that handshake. So it's not a new thing. KANU wanajua msimamo yangu. Wanajua msimamo yangu. I'm not for Jubilee. So whenever they ask me that I should respect or I should follow Uhuru's vitu yenye Uhuru wanauliza, they know me, they know. Siku support Uhuru until on the repeat election. That was the only time I supported Uhuru. So kanu wakakuja na hiyo story ya kusema ati Ngeno is defiant, Ngeno is not loyal to the party. I told them, until when you Gideon yourself declare that you're contesting for presidency is when you can now ask me, Ngeno, wewe una support ama siku support, and that time I will make a decision. And I've tried asking him several times, and I will tell you this for free. Gideon suffers from what we call political epilepsy. Ile ugonjwa ya kipapa ya siasa. Anaamuka. Wewe unataka nifuate mtu yeye.
Akona kipapa ya siasa. Ai, umemaliza Gideon.
I'm not that kind of politician in unaambia.
Let's not mock disability.
No, I'm sorry for that. I'm sorry for that.
No.
Our friends and come for us.
I'm sorry for that. I would have gotten a better.
Right. No,
but at least he has clarified that political epilepsy.
Yes.
Political epilepsy. Yeah. So he's not mocking disability.
No. So you see, I'm not that kind of politician in unaambia wewe nyamaza kaa chini ngojea mpaka vitu vifanye hivi, ngojea mpaka Uhuru atuambie sisi nyinyi ndio mnakuwa president. No. We are mimi mwenyewe sio ile mtu ambaye unaweza niambia ati ningoje mtu akuja aseme ati Ngeno sasa ndio tuna declare kama candidate wetu EMURUA DIKIR. No. I fight for myself. I told Gideon, I will not support you if we cannot fight for yourself. Hii kiti hatuwezi kukupea ati kwa sababu wewe ni kijana ya rais, former president. I told him, hii mpaka utafute
kwa meza,
kwa meza. Na uoneshe watu kwamba you are able. He comes from a county that has a lot of problems. So mpaka you aoneshe. So when I told him, when you decide, come to me, talk to me at that time that I've decided to go for presidency. And I will tell you at that time, well, my friend, kuna wenye wametangulia.
Kuna watu washakuja
tayari. Na nimekubali niende na yule amekuja.
Umeingia box tayari.
First.
Uweze fanya ndoa mara mbili.
So my problem is I will articulate kind of issues, but not issues to do with asking me to support a particular candidate unconditionally. No. I will kanu wakiniambia tufanye hii tutafanya. Kanu wakiniambia tutengeneze hii maneno, hii bill, kama ni bill inasaidia raia nitatengeneza. Lakini kanu ikiniambia support president fulani unconditionally. No, that is not.
You can't do that.
We will part ways. And I've given Kanu notice. Kwamba mimi nimetafuta rais. Nimeenda kutafuta rais. Na unajua kama mwanaume unaenda mawindoni, unajitengeneza vizuri, unaenda mawindoni na mbwa zako na quiver. Ukishaamka kuenda mawindoni, huwezi itwa barabarani atarudi tena nyumbani ati nini na hujaletea watoto. So mimi nimeamka
unaambiwa ndama imenyonya rudi kwanza.
Kuja ukamue.
Kuachana video rudi nyumbani kwanza.
It doesn't work like that. Yeah, so I told Kanu until you produce a presidential candidate, and then you talk to me, you convince me that you can be president, then I will support.
So for you don't feel Gideon as you feel he doesn't have the he doesn't have the power to be a president. He doesn't have the motivation to be a president.
Gideon is not a bad man. He's not a bad man. There are only weaknesses, which of course everybody has weaknesses, but then he's not, in my opinion. If we want to follow politics in this country, yenye tunasema ati mpaka tuambiwe ama tuamushwe ama tukue projects, then Gideon can be a very good project. But to be a presidential material, ile mtu anajitafutia, Gideon cannot do that. And let me tell you, the reason why countries fail, and especially on leadership, is when presidents are made. That is how countries fail. They fail because they do not make decisions on their own. They depend on other people to make decisions. That is how countries fail.
There'll always be someone
people who make themselves presidents. And sometimes it's hard, especially in Africa. It's hard for people to make themselves presidents. Some of them are made presidents through coups. Some of them are made presidents through kuproposiwa ama kufanyiwa kama projects. Those are people yenye wanakuja kumanipulatiwa. And that is the problem we've been having in Kenya. Presidents are manipulated. You look at somebody like Kibaki. Kibaki made himself president. It is only that at the last minute, when they combined forces with Raila Odinga, is when his bid for presidency became a reality. But Kibaki fought for this seat for many years, from 92, 97, 2002, and all that. That is why you realize Kenya was a little bit stable economically from the time Kibaki became president. Until the time Kibaki kind of became, inactive due to maybe, I think, health issues. It's when you now realized other people started driving this country in a wrong direction. Corruption ikaanza, mambo mingi ikaanza. But the first term of President Kibaki was the best presidency I think this country ever had, even Africa ever had. But these others, hii yenye wengine wanafanywa tu wanaundwa kama president, they destroy the country because they allow shenanigans to come and advise them, wrong advisors. Mtu anakuja anakuambia rais, unafaa kufanya hivi. Rais ati ulifanya hii mambo hii jana, hiyo ni mzuri rais, hiyo tunakushukuru sana.
Ulitandika ule kisiara huko.
Ulitandika ule kisiara, tuliona ulikamata hiyo mkora hiyo. Kamata sisi sio mwisho ya dunia. Kamata sisi ni zitengeneza uchumi ya nchi hii. Na sisi hatuchochei watu. No, mimi sijawahi chochea watu. Mimi nimekuwa nikichochea serikali. And that is what I'm made for. That is why I'm a leader, to criticize the government. And when I criticize the government, si ati nimechochea watu. Kama ni kuchochea watu, labda nimechochea watu wa go against the government. Yeah. So I will tell you, Gideon's presidency, unless Gideon himself stands on his own feet, asimame, aweke kwanza aweke jina ya baba yake kando.
Atoe moya baga na
Gideon Kipsiele. Kama mimi Johanna Ngeno Kipiegon. Hiyo siku ndio alafu
ni atajua malanga ni mboga
ya baba yake. Atoke.
Kama naume.
Mimi
nasikia alisema alikuwa anaenda shule bila viatu. Anyway, story for another day. So why don't you support Uhuru? Very quickly.
Bila viatu.
Ni mti yako labda unajua. So why don't you support Uhuru in a nutshell? Very quickly. As we close part.
Uhuru called me during the repeat election. I have never had any sijawahi kuwa na uhusiano na Uhuru until he called me on the 26th, before the 26th election, to State House. And they asked me why I've never supported him, why I'm more than defiant all the time. I told him my reasons. I told him I have my reservations on your leadership. I don't like Y, I don't like C, I don't like F, I don't like K, I don't like all these in your leadership. So he kind of convinced me that Ngeno, I've had you, and this is my promise. I promise to do A, B, C, D. I promise that some of these issues you are claiming will be changed. So I decided to support him. That is only for that repeat elections. I supported Uhuru Kenyatta. After that, mambo ikarudi normal, wakarudi tena kufanya ile mambo yao walikuwa wanafanya. Mambo ya uwizi ikaendelea kwa serikali, corruption ikaendelea. Projects inaletwa projects, alafu unashangaa projects inakuwa exaggerated, the prices are exaggerated. Watu wanaenda kuleta deni ndio hii imejaa nchi hii, so that in the next 10 years we may not be allowed even to borrow because our country is indebted. So many things. So there's so many issues which I felt Uhuru Kenyatta is a cool guy, just like Gideon. But you see, you don't need such cool guys in this country. We need people who can drive the agendas.
The country is not hip hop.
No, it is not. We need people who will tell us what they want to do and they drive that agenda themselves. That is why countries like Singapore, you know, they opted to elect the prime minister. I think it was a prime minister, Lee Kuan. Was he the president or prime minister? They opted to elect him continuously because Lee Kuan will tell you, I will do this, and he will do it. Lee Kuan will drive the government's agenda, come to the assembly, tell members of parliament that this is what the country wants. he will call his cabinet and tell the cabinet, this is what the country wants. He will go to the villages
And listen to the people.
and listen to the people and come back and be able to, this is what the people want. But you see, in our case, tunatuma watu ambao hawaelewi.
It is elitist.
Uhuru Kenyatta anatuma mtu kama Matiang'i. Matiang'i haelewi. Kwanza ile mtu mwenye hana kiatu huko nyumbani. Ni kwa sababu gani hana kiatu? Anatuma mtu kama Kibicho. Watu wanaenda nyumbani wanafikiria ni kuenda na kupiga watu ndio watu wakubali kufuata serikali. Unaenda unatupia watu tiaga. So you see, there's some issues which you won't allow as a good leader. You won't allow to continue or to take place in the country. So me myself, I feel there's some weaknesses and myriad of weaknesses that Uhuru has that needs to be changed. But of course, we are lucky. Our country don't allow extended presidency, and I'm happy even in this particular document they have. Although kuna mahali yenye niko na waziwazi tu kidogo. When they created the position of a prime minister
ambayo tutafikia
and the position of a president, they never put they should have put a clause. You remember when we changed the constitution in during Moi's time in 1991-92? President Moi said, there's nowhere in this document that bar me from contesting. So I'm having a new lease. President Moi akacontest in 92,
amefufuka tena. Haya, wacha tuende tuingie kwa BBI.
On this BBI, mahali pia naofia ni kwamba hakuna mahali imesemekana hapa kwamba the current president
cannot contest again as a prime minister.
Hakuna, hawajaweka. So what will happen in an event that the president would want to contest again? Or what will happen in an event he would want to go for another executive position in this document, like the prime minister position?
Then what it has.
What will happen? How will you prevent it?
All right. So tumefunga pati ya kwanza ya siasa, sasa tutaanza kuingia kwa mambo ya document ya BBI. Alafu tuambie kunaendaje, lakini kabla hatujafika hapo, wacha nifungue flow kiasi, tukimbia hapa tuanze kwa daktari atupe remarks zake, alafu tuingie kwa Lucia pale.
One comment about Mheshimiwa engagement. He has been getting into good trouble, of course. You know, they have a poem called The Dance of the Bees. That bees, kind of the way they work, the queen, the worker, the soldiers, it's like a dance. But once in a while, there's that one bee who is saying, why should I be the one picking nectar every day? I want to be the queen to change it a little bit. But I think it's very practical. You know, in politics, something that probably young people need to also accept, that when you eat with the devil, use a long spoon. According to Lucia, she'll say, I'll rather starve than eat with the devil. But I think there is things. I saw what you did on Mau. I was one of the people who went up to the African Court of Human and People's Rights and got orders that were ignored.
Thank you.
Because of the invisibility, because they intentionally lied and pitted conversation against the people, which is a false narrative. And when you don't sympathize with the people, when people's human rights are abused, and you act like you like the trees more, you are actually making them the enemy of nature.
Exactly.
So the invisibility that the government wanted of these people as encroachers, unaona wanabebwa hapo, wanaonyeshwa wamebeba kuku, yani people who are so reckless. I like that Mheshimiwa stood up and said, these are Kenyans. We need to talk seriously, and if we are talking of conservation, let us talk of conservation.
Yes.
Not conservation when it's convenient, and not. So I appreciate that. I'm looking at the recent BBI. Almost what I'm seeing leaders saying, I'm seeing a very worrying trend or a disturbing picture. You know, some people used to say, speak to the hand because my ears cannot hear. That's what I'm getting.
Yes.
If you have something to say, speak to my hands, and that hand is raised. The BBI report and its implementation is now being presented as fait accompli, meaning it is done.
It is done.
And anybody who is talking of consultation or discussion, we have done enough. And so to me that become worrying, that it is presented as fait accompli, and there is no need to talk. And if there is no need to talk, then what's the need of reading it? So you are telling me to read it, then what? So there's that contrast. I've heard Mr. Kimunya speak. I've heard the ODM leader speak. I have seen that frustration among the churches in Kenya, who felt there was things that needed to be adjusted, and we can get to those things, but it is being offered as done, and that shows you the race against time. You know, the older constitution took 30 years.
Yes.
It was a 30 years conversation. It wasn't a week, a month, a year. 30 years of conversation. Now this one, they're saying they're running out of time. Time to do what? Because constitutional process is expensive, and you are spending public resources. Now you saw that, I saw the breaking news that they are starting to collect signatures today. And so they're short-circuiting the process. You are collecting signature, meanwhile you have taken the path of using public resources, and then you want to come to popular initiative. And you want to mix these processes. You know, as somebody said, it's like a grown-up trying to order from the kids' menu. Government should follow the parliament process and not the popular initiative. Yes. Finally, before I give this up, I looked at the recommendation, and I'm thinking that the bulk of recommendation are on policy issues. Then I'm looking at those policy issues. They are not realistic, they are not feasible, and they are not viable. Hizo ni kizungu tatu. They are not realistic, they are not feasible, and they are not viable. There is no timeline in them. That is the biggest mischief. So you have all these flowery things, and that is why people have called them sweeteners. People have called them campaign promises, because you have not put who is responsible and it should be done by when. Yet you have choice to say that. You have not done that because you cannot be bound without time frame. You cannot be bound by clearly enunciating who is responsible for its implementation. You have not told us who is to do what, who is to do when, and why. So you are telling youth, by the way itatokea, they don't know when. Yes. It's like the second coming of Jesus. So why are you intentionally vague? We know why. It's not because you don't know how to put dates. It's because you don't want to be bound. You want it to be loose. You want it to be aspirational, and it is simply escort us to the main constitutional amendment you wanted to do. And that is why I'm asking the youths that, you know, when somebody promises you something, look at how concrete it is. So when you'll have voted for BBI and then you come and say, by the way, you promised me that you'll waive my loans, you'll be told, yeah, I will. Yeah, I'm working on it. I'm working on it. We are working on it. Because there is no time frame. And because they knew if they put time frame after referendum, it will look suspicious. Isn't it? Because these are things you can just write an email and an executive order. So you don't want to put time frame after referendum, because it will be suspicious. You don't want to do them before referendum, because therefore then there is no motivation to vote for that constitutional amendment. So it is purely political. And if 80% of these interventions are simply policy issues that are in your hands, and you want to follow with them the long and wait for the long electoral constitutional cycle of the reform, then you are being mischievous. And that to me is one of the points that I would like to underline. Why? As I complete, because this country is known for writing beautiful documents, my friend. If you wanted beautiful documents, somebody made a joke of some of our documents found their way and they are being utilized in other countries. Africa and Kenya especially is also known for not implementing. The not implementing disease. We write, we say one thing, we provide another thing. Because you don't want to be committed. So where is Ndungu report? Which was, has it been implemented? Where is the Truth and Justice and Reconciliation report? We have even backtracked from Kriegler report and what they told us how elections should be conducted, for example. So if you are there as a young people and you read this flowery language and say, wow, that sounds nice, let's drink for this. Oh, wow, now tax break. Oh, this incubation centers. Oh, this innovation center. I will give you a contrast. Honorable Sakaja have taken a bill on helping a new business start. That is concrete. But here you have this flowery language in the policy, in the name of policy, which is 80% of the BBI, without any commitment, and we know what you are going to do. Nobody's interested to them. And then meanwhile, you don't want to engage, and you're saying, speak to the hand because my ears cannot hear you. That is why I'm worried to that extent, sir. Thanks.
Lucia.
Yeah. Given the history that you've had and where you're coming from, I actually think in another life we were friends.
We should have been.
I have been called a troublemaker a lot.
Which you are.
But I cause good trouble. I cause good trouble. And the trouble I cause is to protect the gains that those who came before us have achieved. I have a comment and follow-up questions on whether we have a parliament right now. It's very good that I'm getting the sense you're not a yes man. You're not simply someone who'll just rubber stamp for the sake of rubber stamping. So do we have a parliament? Do we have a senate per se? Are the people of is Shiko represented in parliament and in senate?
Well, you want me to reply to that?
Yeah, I would love for you to.
I'll tell you for a fact. I'm a member of parliament. Mm-hmm. But if you were to look at my attendance in the house, has been very limited. Limited because of a few issues. Mm-hmm. Issues that parliament has been turned into a conveyor belt. Mm-hmm. Most of the issues that parliament does today are issues to do with State House. What has State House said, or what has Capitol Hill? I think we call these are the mini State House.
Laundromat.
Yeah, Capitol Hill. What have they said? That is how Parliament has turned into, so that they do not tackle issues that deals with ordinary monage. Mm-hmm. They tackle issues that the government wants. When a government is in power, and I think even the Constitution was very clear that there is a partition of powers. The executive, the judiciary, the legislature are very different arms of government, although they are supposed to work together. But they are different arms of government. They are independent. So it is, if Parliament was to work like what courts normally do nowadays, making decisions, making judgments, passing judgments without actually consulting the executive, then I'm telling you, Parliament would have been what Parliament is. But now, instead of actually interrogating the government, instead of asking questions, instead of oversighting the government, because our major roles are legislation, are we legislating for wananchi, or we are legislating for the government? Instead of oversight, are we oversighting the government, or we are working with the government? Instead of representation, are we representing the people, or we are representing the government? So when you look at Parliament now, I will tell you on representation, they are 100% representing the government. On legislation, they are 100% legislating for the government.
For the government.
On matters of oversight, I think they have refused to oversight the government, because let me tell you this, if today, when you look at the debts the country is having, when you look at the projects the country has been doing, when you look at the corruption that is in our ministries, when you look at the corruption that is in the parastatals, when you look at corruption everywhere, literally everywhere, and nobody is raising a finger, no parliament is standing against it, then obviously you will know that parliament is dead. When you go to the Senate was a little bit sober until the State House started operating with the State House, with the Senate. I remember when they were removing the leaders of majority, the whips and all that, that was when we realized also that Senate is as good as dead. Because when you start, looking at the issues as from the government perspective, not from the parliament's perspective, then you cease to be a member of parliament. You cease to be a senator. You cease to articulate the issues that you're supposed to articulate. When they voted on removal of some of these members from the Senate, And then obviously you realize that these people have ceased to be representing the counties that they were supposed to represent. The only time that they woke up was when the issue of revenue allocation came up. That was when I think senators started waking up and realizing that we are being driven to the direction that we do not. So I don't know. The good side of the story is that Parliament is ending in the next 1.5 years, and all will be good. It is time now for people to go back again and look for the leaders they want to send to that house. But as of now, we are doomed. And I will say that without blinking an eye. We are doomed, and God help us. God help this country, because we are handling billions and billions of money. We are the Constitution gave us that mandate to appropriate funds, to even after dividing the money amongst the county and the national government, it also gave us the responsibility to look into those funds, whether they've done the right job, whether they have been wasted, whether they have been misappropriated, whether they have been stolen. But you see, we are not doing that. Every year we are doing a budget of 2 trillion and above. But when you go to the ground, do you see anything worth even 1 billion?
No.
Most of the roads that we have today were done by Chinese. So sometimes you wonder, why are we allocating 180 or 200 billion on roads, and yet when we ask for the roads, we are told that road was done by Chinese, this road was done by Chinese or Japanese and all that. So nobody wants to look at how much money we are wasting. Nobody wants to look at that because we fear State House. So our calling is that, what has the president said? What has State House said? That is what we do in Parliament. We don't do what people send us to do there. And I will say, somebody will say, well, then why don't you resign? I don't resign because I'm still a voice and I still talk, and that is why they arrest me. I still talk against the ills the government is doing.
I cannot say the same about my MP, my member of Parliament, Honorable George Deuri. There is nothing honorable about him. He's not even a voice. He might be a good man. He's a pathetic leader.
No, he's a good man. He's a good leader. He's a good leader, Lucia.
Ni kama Lucia ndago MP.
Actually, nataka kukua president. Now, let's deal with the elephant in the country.
Let me tell you something, Lucia. And I think also the wrongs that we are doing as members of Parliament trickles down to the people who elected us. You know, the problem with you people is that you're so tribalistic, so tribal, that when you elect me, you want to elect me because I'm with my party leader who belongs to my tribe. Now look, when I go to Parliament, when I want to do what I'm supposed to do, my party leader calls me and tells me, no, that is another position. Now, if I go again as a party leader, nikikuja nyumbani, munanipiga, munasema, wewe, umeenda kando na Kalonzo, umeenda kando na Uhuru, umeenda kando na Ruto. So I become, I get subdued. And then I say, okay, if that is what you want, wacha niende kuimba nyimbo ya Kalonzo. So when I come to Parliament, nangojea tu Kalonzo anipigie. Wamesema nini?
Akwambia leo ni im number 35.
Mimi na kwanza iko. You voters, the day you vote me as a member of Parliament, not as a member of a community, that is when I will respect the community. The day you will never ask me why I'm not with Ruto on this, the day you will never ask me why I'm not with Raila on this, then that is the time we will also wake up as members of Parliament. So you people, you are the one who was also, like today, if somebody was to stand against issues or policies that Raila once articulated in the House, what will happen? Ataenda Kisumu. You see what is happening in Central now? People are trying to tell people that, and let me tell you, there are two communities which I've always emulated. The Lucia community.
And the Kisi.
You know, they tell you Luhyas never come together, Luhyas hawajawai ungana. Let me tell you, that is a picture of what Kenya is supposed to be. Sio lazima ati muungane wote mufuate ati Mudavadi ama mufuate ati Wetangula ati no.
Mukwe kirundi komoja.
Let me tell you, Luhyas have always given us what Kenya should be. Follow a leader. Follow a leader. Look at Mount Kenya now. Mount Kenya are telling their leaders, no, don't tell us that Uhuru anatoka kwetu. Uhuru anatoka kwetu, lazima tufuate. Hapana, sisi leo tutafuata kiongozi. Let me tell you for free. For free. This one is for free. tribalism
things.
never help you.
Well-
It will never help anybody in this country. President Kenyatta, Jomo Kenyatta, was president for 14 good years. Kibaki became president 10 good years. That is 24. Forget about this one of Uhuru. But for many years, when Uhuru even became president, ukiona TV watu wa Mount Kenya, kuna watu walikuwa nakufa na dudu jigas, and they have had presidency for the 24 years. Kuna watu hata mashule zingine zilifungwa. Kwa nini? Kwa sababu watu hawakuwa wanazaa tena. Wamelewa, ulevi imemaliza watu. Uniambie, tajiri analewa? Halewi? Tajiri anapambana na kazi. Mtu mwenye analewa ni ile anaenda na frustrations yake, anasema sina pesa,
Kama
sina kitu ya
baya.
kupelekea bibi jioni. Analewa ndio akirudi, anaambia bibi, anakuja tu akiimba. When even having presidents for the 24 years in Mount Kenya, you still find the poorest people in this country. Why hasn't it helped them? Na ni mtu yao. Rift Valley. Moi became president for 24 years.
Baringo
But
hakuna maji.
when he retired, the worst part of it, kulikuwa na njaa Baringo. Watu walikuwa wanakula rats, panya, huko Baringo. Watu walikuwa wanakula roots, poisonous roots. Watu walikuwa wanakula fruits ndio wa survive njaa. And Moi was the president for 24 years. Some of us who come from the downside of Rift Valley, I'm telling you, tulikuwa na shida. So sometimes when you coalesce around your Raila amekuwa prime minister, ako na share yake, watu Kibra bado wanatumia flying toilets, and he has been prime minister. He has been member of parliament for that constituency for many years, but watu walikuwa bado wanatumia flying toilets. So I think it is high time we realize that tribal leaders, tribal kings don't help anybody. Hata mtu yenu akikuwa president, hakuna mahali anakupeleka, bado uko na shida. Sisi tuko na shida. Na Moi alikuwa president 24 years. Deputy president amekuwa deputy president.
Na bado mko na hiyo shida.
Na bado tuko na hiyo shida. Uhuru amekuwa president for the 8 years plus ya baba yake 14 na
bado Gatundu wako na shida.
Unaona watu wanasukumwa na wheelbarrows. Na mtu hapa anakuja na kuambia ati nyinyi fuata mimi. Ati nyinyi mna defy Uhuru Kenyatta in Mount Kenya, ati nyinyi mna defy Ruto in Rift Valley, ati nyinyi mna defy Raila in Nyanza, ati nyinyi mna defy Kalonzo Musyoka in Ukambani. I think and there is a problem of tribalism amongst our leaders. Wacha nikuambie a very good example. I stood in Kilgoris in 2007. Nilipiga campaign kila mahali, wa Masai, wa Kisii, wa Jaluo, wa Kipsigis. Nikapigiwa kura, I'm telling you, across the board. Na kura ikahesabiwa mpaka karibu inaisha. Viongozi, and that is where the problem is. Viongozi wakakuja asubuhi, wakakanyaga juu ya meza na kusema huyu mtu hawezi kuwa declared.
Hold on
Because
to that
he's
thought.
not from our tribe. You see?
No.
But watu hawako wanajua, raia hawako wanajua. It was the leadership that came and reminded people that is not from our tribe.
Yes.
What is happening in Kenya today is that we are driving our people toward tribes. Na tukishamalizana nao kwa election ati mpaka Kalonzo ajulikane, ati kwanza lazima aanzie Ukambani. Ati mpaka ndio Raila ajulikane, ati kwanza lazima afunge Nyanza ikuwe intact. Ati mpaka mtu mwingine akienda Nyanza kuomba kura anapigwa mawe. What stupidity is that? It is time, like what Tanzania has done, it is time we change this country to be one nation, one tribe, one nation. That is the only time we will realize we will elect leaders that we want. But the moment, look at some few areas. Ukiona Kisumu town, wame-elect Muhindi. Ukiona Cases, wame-elect Muhindi. Ukienda Meru hapa hivi, those are few examples.
Juneta huko pia,
Juneta huko chini. If when you look at some few areas, you will realize that these are the people who have showed us that tribalism doesn't take you anywhere.
All right.
Good. Yeah. So let's move on because of time. Were you invited to Bomas when this was being launched?
I was not invited.
Good.
Of course,
Okay.
for the obvious reasons.
So we are calling this.
Neither was I.
Neither was I. Neither was I. Neither were my peers and masafara wenzangu from mtaani. And yet we are being told this is an inclusive process. This is the document that is going to solve all our problems. AYIELA does not have food on the table. Bam! BBI solves that problem. AYIELA does not have fare to come to the tackle. Bam! BBI has solved that problem for AYIELA if she says yes. So we are told it's inclusive, it's going to build bridges. We even saw some small bromance between the president and his deputy, and they were very good speeches. Now, I'm assuming here you followed the event.
I did.
Great.
Though
so
Leslie.
Can we just touch on some of the speeches that were given during the day? Let's actually start with the issue of inclusion. In your opinion, given that the task force did not have a person living with disability, the task force did not have a young person. So from the word go, these people were excluded, yet we are calling this a Building Bridges initiative. What's your opinion?
Before Mheshimiwa answer that, I have a problem with this very narrow notion of inclusivity, where ati tunauliza wapi mtu disable hapa? I mean, they are part of the society. You know, no, this model came from the West. And maybe there was some unconscious discrimination then, but you don't find, even in the US Congress, they are saying, by the way, we need to have a form of physical disability here. We need to have whatever. It kind of becomes silly. The issues. So you cannot say because you didn't see a young person there, or you saw a young person who is appointed by Matiang'i or Raila, like the one we are seeing, they are simply young people who are articulating older people issues, then you have inclusivity. Let us look at inclusivity beyond that, you know, okay, tokenism, okay, this person with disability, are they not part of the society? Is the father not the father of the youth? Yeah. Is the father not the father of the disabled? I mean, is it a family or not? So if I come from a family with people with disability, so are you telling me that within that family, this person with disability, yeah, you go in his own way, yet I come from a community where. But anyway, go ahead.
Give me a minute to tackle the professor. This is an
no time. We are out of time. We are out of time.
No, the young people, the views of the young people in the BBI actually are not represented, Dr. Ojwang, because young people were not there. They were not represented physically. That's why their voice is not heard in this document. Just like the way our voice is not heard anywhere in this government, because we do not have that voice, simply because we lack representation. Same with persons living with disability. You wouldn't understand the challenges that a left-handed person goes through trying to write on a right-handed person's desk. Would you now? Simply because you're not left-handed. No, you're not putting on that shoe. You don't know where it pinches. And until you do, you will not understand it.
I'm an expert in disability. You don't go to a doctor and tell a doctor. No, you don't go tell a doctor that because you don't have diabetes, you cannot treat diabetes. You are better off.
Doctor, you're being myopic.
You are better off with an expert in you than simply saying, is it about raps? What are the youth issues we can articulate when in mtoto wa mtu?
Go and articulate.
You are part of family.
All right, I'm going to mute you guys. I'll mute you. All right. I've muted you guys. Mheshimiwa, pick it up.
This is paranoia. Oh, youth, vijana,
Mheshimiwa. Of all men that we are fighting in this country.
You see, you're already muted. Mheshimiwa, pick it up.
Well, I'm sorry for that, but let me tell you something that I think we have. In our country, you know, we picked, there was, you know, during independence and change of leadership and change of leadership styles, there was either you go communist way or capitalist way. And our country, I think, went capitalistic. But then we never picked exactly what capitalism means. We brought competition unfairly. We decided to compete on unfair grounds because there was no level grounds for people to compete. And that is why I think majorly the reasons why they were trying to include issues to do with women, people with disabilities, is because we are that kind of society that ignores the disability of other people. And disability in a sense that not health-wise, but even disability as in being a woman, being a youth who doesn't have access to resources, being poor and being marginalized and being from small tribes. I think being coming from a small tribe in this country is also a disability, because you can never become president in this country if you are a Somali, if you are a Pokot, I mean, if you are a Turkana, if you are a Rendile, if you are a Masai, very rare, or even if you are a Kuria. You will have to do magics. You will have to do I don't know what to become president. So it is a disability, as in this country. So unless we change also the way we take things, unless we start having a different perception on leadership and how to share resources in this country. And I think the reason why we are raising these issues of disabilities and women and youth is because of resources. If these resources were shared equally and equitably, nobody will be asking, why am I a youth? Why am I not represented? Why am I not represented as a woman? If all the issues were shared equally, properly, and equitably, then I think these issues of a separation of these are women, these are youth, these are that, should not have risen in this country. And all these come down to leadership. What kind of leaders are we electing? Are we electing sober leadership, sober leaders? Are we electing people who understand the problems that people have? I think this country needs to be revolutionized. It needs a serious revolution. And I think Ruto kind of, the deputy president, is speaking from some point where people are ripe for a revolution. It's only that he has not come out so clearly because he's still in government and he's still part of the government. But this country needs to be revolutionized, so that you can change all this. Look at what is happening now. Look at this document you're telling us. This document. If you look at this document, tell me a single reason why this document is taking space of what should have been development. Somebody is telling us that BBI is a child born out of handshake. Handshake is a child born out of an agreement between Uhuru and Raila to work together for the sake of this country. Tell me, since handshake, what prompted the handshake? Ni nini ilifanya Uhuru asalamiana na Uhuru? I mean, Uhuru asalamiana na Raila. Yeah, what? Tell me, was there a crisis? Kulikuwa na shida? Raila alikuwa amekataa kuenda election. Dunia ikanyamaza. Raila ameenda kujiapisha. Akanyamaza. Raila akaenda akapumzika nyumbani. Wajumbe wamekuja bunge, wameanza kazi yao. Senators wameenda Senate kufanya kazi yao. Everything in the country was calm. The country had gone back to, to that normal situation. And then all of a sudden, handshake. Tell me the reason why we had that handshake. I've never understood. Myself, I've never understood. I've never known the reason. But I will tell you the reason, which I'm speculating. The reasons is not what people think. Si ati Uhuru alikuwa anataka ati inji ikae vizuri. Tangu handshake, inji imekaa vizuri. Si ni ukweli? Umeona nini? Kuna kilomita ya barabara imetengenezwa after handshake. Kuna kilomita of railway imetengenezwa after handshake. We have only be having debts, mtu anaenda kuleta pesa, mtu anaenda kukopa, mtu anaenda kufanya, but there is nothing substantive after the handshake which the government has done. Unlike even in the previous government, in the previous term. So when they tell us the handshake brought peace in the country, peace in the country is in our minds. It is us politicians and raia ndio tunaleta amani nchi hii. And why is it that shida inatokea wakati ya elections? So I think the major issue we should have addressed, even in this document, is elections. Nothing else. Nothing to do with the prime minister or whatever. Elections, how do we handle our elections? And after the elections, how do the president handle the country? So let me suggest to you, the reason why we had this particular handshake, it was because, and you should ask yourself, who brought the other one? Is it Raila who initiated the handshake? Is it Uhuru who initiated the handshake? The answer is obvious. It is Uhuru who initiated the handshake. Why would Uhuru initiate the handshake? Why? What was the reason? Uhuru is retiring. Why is he so passionate about having a handshake with Raila Odinga, who is contesting for presidency in 22? And Ruto is contesting for presidency in 2022, and all those others. Why is he interested with Raila alone, and not with Ruto, not with Kalonzo, not with Mudavadi, not with the rest of them, if it was a real handshake? So I think the reason is Uhuru wanted a peace of mind to do his business. Raila also wanted a peace of mind to do his business. And this is what these people have been doing. No development, business. Hiyo ndio vitu yenye Raila na Uhuru walikubaliana. Kwamba tunyamazishe watu,
tuanze kukula,
tufanye biashara. Otherwise, miaka 2 itaisha na serikali itakuwa imeenda na hakuna kitu. That is the only reason why we had this.
Our time to eat.
Secondly, our time to eat. Secondly, came the issue of now, how do we view the 2022 leadership? Uhuru is scared of Ruto. Raila is scared of Ruto. So they, this is a meeting of minds. They reach an addendum that there is a monster in 2022 called William Samoei Ruto. So why can't we sit down and do or formulate a document that will either in one way or another prevent this guy from ascending to power? The problem now is you are tackling a guy also who understand the game. So walipoenda BBI 1, kabla kuachisha hiyo document, wakaanza kusikiza hewa inasema nini. Yule rafiki yetu ambao walikuwa anataka kutackle akaanza kuvurusha, wakarudi tena kurewrite. So that by the end of introduction of document 1, hata wewe ulishangaa. Kwani hii kitu yote wamekuwa kipigia debe nini? Ni itu.
In fact, the owner started denying it and saying, no, this is not what you're waiting for.
Later on wakarudi tena, wakasema ati, let us go back again, reread the document, fanya amendments, nini vitu kama hizo, alafu wakasikiza rafiki yao anasema nini. Wakasikia tena dunia imekuwa mbaya. Wakarudi, wakaleta hii document. Tell me, in any part of this document, just show me any part of this document that is pro peace in this country, that is pro bringing the people together, that is, tell me. This document is only to assist 2 people, and that is Uhuru Kenyatta. Uhuru Kenyatta wants a continuity. Continuity either as himself contesting for the position that is here. And that is why I said in the first place, why is there no clause that denies the current president from contesting again in the next constitutional dispensation? Why is there nowhere in this document? If these people were gentlemen, if these people were statesmen, they should have included a clause that says anybody who has ever contested as a president of the Republic of Kenya and won should never contest for any position in this document. Anybody who has ever held a position of a prime minister before should never contest for either the position of the prime minister again. The reason being, in our constitution, we do not want something like you are extending your term. That is the spirit of the constitution. But it is not there. It is not there. So either in this document, Uhuru Kenyatta wants to extend his powers through the position of a prime minister, either himself or through a proxy. And that is why he created some, what we call, multiple MPs. Create multiple MPs. Some people will tell you that the multiple MPs will have the people from Mount Kenya. But let me ask you, when has a nominated member of parliament helped anybody? Anywhere? Even people with disabilities. Hawajawai assist, wanaji-assist kivyao. People who are nominated to positions are only used as weapons to vote. They are normally called voting robots. So the multiple members of parliament who will be 70 in this particular case are only voting robots. These are people who will only be asked to come and take some cash and vote for a particular prime minister in that house. So I think Uhuru Kenyatta wanted to create a situation where he himself, if he wants to contest as a prime minister, or if he wants to pop up or a proxy, he will use the members who will be nominated to vote for that particular person. As for Raila, and this one, Uhuru was very tactful. How do we retain power without necessarily contesting for the presidency? So we can still retain power just around there, coalescing around his person or their people But the presidency can go whichever way. Just look at the article which is talking about the election of a prime minister, the nomination of a prime minister. Option 1, the president nominates a prime minister and sends to parliament. And parliament votes for or against. If he never garners 180 votes, then we go to the second option. And the second option is members of parliament sits and elect a prime minister.
It is well prescribed.
And the president has nothing to do with it. So look at that. Somebody will tell you, Uhuru Kenyatta realized that I would want to have a prime minister in this house, whether me or somebody else who supports my issues and of course, all those other interests which politicians normally have. But the best way to do it is by putting this particular clause that says, when the president fails, so if somebody was to become president, like if Ruto was to be president and elects a prime minister, not of Uhuru's choice, he will use the members of parliament, the multiple members of parliament, to vote again as that prime minister. And then sits again and vote their own prime minister, who is of their choice. So those people are just for as voting machines. As for Raila, what stake does Raila has in this particular? What is Raila's stake in this particular document? Remember, Raila alikuwa ameambia watu wake, including me, that this is my last bullet. So when that ended, 2017 Raila number 1.
Bullets get reloaded.
So the bullets, Raila had to reload the bullets, not one bullet.
Ikuwa mingi kubahatisha.
Ilikuwa moja, lakini sasa
ameongeza ikuwa mingi.
Ilibidi aongeze ikuwa mingi. Ndio ubahatishe. Ukigonga hapo ugonge pale. That is Raila's stake. Raila knew that I will still contest for presidency in 2022. But what will I do with Mudavadi? What will I do with Kalonzo? What will I do with Joho? What will I do with all those other people? Yeah, Oparanya. So he had also to agree with Uhuru Kenyatta that let us create positions enough for these particular communities. And let me tell you this. The 5 positions created are slated for the 5 communities in this country. And wait
already
see.
Predefined.
If this thing is to pass, kama hii kitu itapita, ngojea uone, you will never miss a Kikuyu, you will never miss a Kalenjin, you will never miss a Luo, you will never miss a Kamba, and you will never miss a Luya. In that 5, the remainder, hizo vitu zingine kama hiyo ni mifupa ya kutupia tu ile majamii ndogo. But
When busy kuleni hiyo.
Sisi tushakula nyama.
So tell me, how inclusive is this particular document? If it is only meant for 5 communities, it is never inclusive. So this was a document done by politicians who want to ascend to power. Nothing else.
It doesn't do
unaambiwa ati kuna kitu inaitwa commission ya vijana. Ngoja nikuambie Lucia, wewe ni kijana. Si ndio? You have a whole ministry of youth. You have a whole ministry. Already. You want to tell me a commission is bigger than a ministry where we appropriate funds to that particular ministry? So you don't tell me that you may create a commission ya vijana and yet you have a whole ministry ya vijana lakini hakuna kitu vijana wamefanyiwa kwa hiyo ministry. Kwanza hata minister ya hiyo ministry ya vijana ni mama mzee.
Actually that ministry imekuwa bundled with other things. Now we are with ICT rather than just being a standalone ministry on it by itself. Also, we have the National Youth Councils. So why do we need a National Youth Commission?
You have several things that goes towards youth.
Yeah.
So this one, usiambiwe ati tumecreate youth.
And you know
whatever. Usiambiwe ati tumetoa. And let me tell you, I had an amendment in Parliament. It is only that it coincided with Kangata's amendment on help. My amendment was that why should help develop interest? If somebody was given 100,000, ngojea mpaka huyo jamaa amalize shule, apate kazi, alirudishe 100,000 kama alipewa 100,000. Kama alipewa 400,000, alipe hiyo 400,000 the way it is. Usituambie ati umewekea 4% interest. What interest? Wewe unauliza mtoto yako interest ya kufanya nini? Mimi sasa hivi nikiwa na shamba nikiambia mtoto yangu enda lima, ndamuuliza ukilima upate gunia 10, rudishia mimi gunia 5. Mimi ni mjinga aina gani? Mimi nilizaa mtoto wangu kulisha mtoto. So these people telling us that ati interest imefanywa ati mpaka sasa kijana apate kazi ndio nonsense. Na nilisikia ukisema siku moja, I was following your this tackle sometimes. Na nikasikia akisema you know, that is only 6 billion. How much money is being stolen in this country?
600 billion every year.
Every year is being stolen. Now what is wrong? What is so painful?
Write it off.
Write off. Write off
And
this
forget.
nonsense.
Do you know?
Write off pan paper. Pesa ya pan paper.
Helblon ni kama type
You've written
ya
off
pesa ya corruption.
pesa ya Mumias. You've written off pesa ya nani? You've written off several loans. Even ya AFC, even ya nini.
Na huko itaji BBI. Huko fanya BBI.
Huko fanya BBI. Right of here vijana. Ndio tujue you're very serious.
Na unatudanganya hapa, we are the leaders of tomorrow.
Remember last week, then tomorrow never comes. Remember last week, President was in somewhere Nyeri, and he said he's going to give them how much to build that hospital. It was a substantial amount of billions. That is already enough to clear those loans we are talking about. So and this is probably very important conversation. That in Kenya, just because there is institutions does not mean anything, isn't it? We have seen institutions being set. Right now, we are in a situation where there is clawback. Youth cannot, in universities, cannot elect their own student representative.
Yes.
They moved to delegates. And it has muted, and it is possible that now the university management can interfere with the student electing their own voice. Now, when you look at the institution, even the winner takes all you are talking about, I'm looking at it and I'm saying, okay, you have that prime minister whose agenda, who is coming to the cabinet, but the cabinet still belongs to the president.
Yes.
The things they are implementing is the party position. And so how does that include any other agenda except that it's a worker for the president? Secondly, you have that opposition leader, dignified opposition leader. That opposition leader, we know that their remuneration and their comfort will be based on to what extent is the government happy or mad with their interventions. If you are genuine, why don't you outrightly put it in the constitution and say, you know what, this is how the opposition leader will be facilitated. You cannot have a minister who has a ministry in every and offices throughout the Kenya, and then you have this individual in Nairobi in the name of MP who is going to tackle and be saying, no, you are lying about Moyale. This person need facilitation.
Yes.
The shadow cabinet need to be treated and facilitated equal to the other member of parliament, other ministers, so that they have researchers, they can go and find out that is not provided, and you know it is left at the whimsical of the executive.
Yes.
Finally, you find you know there's this culture, and that is why the devil in the room, and you called it, is the presidency. But at the end of the day, the end product, at the end of the equal sign, is that we have a more executive presidency.
Exactly.
Yet for the 30 years we have been working to claw back the executive presidency. Now the executive presidency have more carrots to dangle, have more powers, which is very bad, because that means that now the executive has one foot on the legislature, has one foot on the judiciary through the ombudsman, and still retains the executive. And in fact add more. In fact, there is that Bible verse that says, those who have more shall be added. This is BBI. And those who don't have, even shall be taken away. They have lived that verse very well. So I'm looking at it, and to be honest, I'm wondering, is President Uhuru able to reform constitution? The answer is no.
Of course not.
Because obviously, both in terms of capacity and interest, this is a situation where we have seen the constitution being impotent. You had power to even within your cabinet show that face of Kenya, not in the BBI. Where is it written that if you are a president, 4 ministers must come from one community? Where is it written? Where? And those are the mischief, because you look at Article 10 and it's telling us about inclusivity, about fairness, and then we start the presidency and we know 4 ministers before you count of major ministries will come from the same community the president is coming from. So now consider even the role of opposition leader compared to 4 presidents, 4 MPs, 4 ministers you have given to your own community. And then you have communities which don't have anybody, not even a PS, and then you are calling that inclusivity. So the mischief here is that if we have the goodwill, and that's why BBI kind of try to underscore and say the soft power is the problem, the soft engine. No, not the structure or institution. It is a matter of heart. It's a matter of our doing and undoing. So if that is the case, that is not a problem for the law. Constitution cannot make you a decent person. It cannot tell you tuck in. We have inflation of laws. It has to be that either you go to your spiritual leader, you find yourself, and you find purpose in being a decent human being. There is nothing which prevents president even now appointing PS from other communities. Yet we know that if you look at the appointment, there is inflation of other regions than other regions. And so in terms of capacity, and I'm looking at it finally as probably what the president is trying to do also, is to install future reforms. You see, you ride on that wave. In order to make sure this constitution is not amended for another 10 years, you do a false one. You do an impotent one. And you better manage that process when you are there and you have power than when you are out. Because if you look at South Africa, the next discussion of their constitution is the issue of land. But now you look at the constitution here, the BBI, it does not mention land. Why are you doing that? So that I can make a false process here, a boogeyman, a Trojan horse, so that for the next 10 years watu watakwambia bwana unataka sijuzi ndio tulichange hii katiba. And I think that to me is part of the motivation. Thanks.
Let me comment on that a little bit because you see the question I keep on asking myself is why is Uhuru so enthusiastic about changing the law? And why was he not enthusiastic before the 2017 election? If there was a time that Kenya needed a handshake, it was before the 2017 election. So to me, I'm looking at a situation where he wants to water down some of the powers, expecting that maybe his brother or his enemy might ascend to that position. But instead of even watering it down, he watered down and then brought again. You know, wamezunguka mpaka hata nimeshindwa. What was the intention of this particular BBI? Like you said, we went around this country. I remember I even attended in Narok one of the BBI rallies and meetings, and I was kind of humiliated because of the issues which people thought they wanted to change. In Narok, people thought maybe this BBI was to talk about land, especially the land issues which people from Narok have been facing for a long time. And part of it was that there is that perception that some of us have been their problem, the cause of their land issues. So at that particular moment, I had to leave because of the acrimony that was there. But look at the document. Does it have anything to do with land? Let me ask you, we had a problem in this country, which we know we have a problem in this country. And the problem is not the constitution. The problem is not the law. The problem, like you've said, we have inflated laws. We have a lot of sharias in this country that should have been used to tackle the issues that we have. The problem is leadership. If leaders decide to stand or to have that high moral ground, talk about corruption, talk about government wastages, talk about tribalism, talk about issues that affect our communities, then that is the time that we will say we will be talking to the people of this country. But when you look at all this we have changed here, nothing to do with the land, nothing to do with corruption, nothing to do with... I was expecting these people, because I've been talking about corruption day and night, corruption day and night, fulani ni corrupt, fulani. I was expecting this BBI iseme kama China, when you are found as a corrupt person, unapigwa risasi kama vile China wanafanya. I was expecting that radical thing.
Or disbanded
from even holding any government position. But you see, today you are found as corrupt as a member of parliament, or you are found being corrupt as a cabinet secretary, and then the following day una contest on another position and nobody even, ask you anything. So the problems that we have in this country is not the constitution. It is not the constitution. The priority of our people is not the constitution. The priority is how do we make our life more easier. The taxes that we are facing in this country, everybody is being taxed over and above what they're even getting. Look at the people, border people. Why should we tax them? Look at the kiosks, kiosks. Why should we tax them? There are some issues which this BBI should have raised, that let us remove taxes on this, let us remove taxes on ABCD. If there's a way the government has to look for money, then we need to find ways of getting that money, but not through taxing the small business people, the border people, and those people in the kiosks, wakina mama yenye wanauza vitu ndogo ndogo. Those are the areas yenye tungekuwa tumeiona serikali kweli imeamua kusaidia raia. Wangetoa pia wastages. When you look at, we normally budget a lot of money to the ministries, but when you follow the money that, like even we budget to every ministry, when you look at the money that goes for development, vis-a-vis the money that goes for fuel, vehicles, services, and all that, around 80% goes to fuel and services and all that, and salaries. 20% goes for development. Same case to the counties. When you budget money to the counties, there's nowhere in this law that puts the money sent to the county at a particular percent. Kama ingesema 70% ya pesa imetumwa county iende kwa development, 30% iende kwa recurrent expenditure. Hapo ndio sasa ungesema at least pesa yenye imeenda county inaenda kufanya kazi. But you see, you are leaving that leverage to the governors. Governor anaweza sema, I'm the chief executive, I know how to do my budget, this is what I spend, how I spend money. We have sent billions and billions of money to the counties, but when you go there and look for the development which has been done by those counties,
you can't see
null. So what this document should have done is to look at how do we make the money that we send to the counties work. How do we utilize the money that we leave in the national government, especially to the ministries, work? But instead, they are bringing new issues to do with leadership. Everything in this document, minus only a few, and somebody was saying, the few documents that are from the few amendments that are pro Raya are those ones that we can do in Parliament. Those ones that we can legislate, do away with them, without necessarily going to referendum. The rest, the remainder that are making our people go to the referendum are the leadership positions. Now, whose positions are those? Those are for politicians, not the ordinary wananchi. So in essence, what we are doing, we are changing the law to satisfy our political whims. We are changing the law to satisfy to allow us to ascend to certain positions. We are not changing the law to help the people. And there are so many questions I've asked myself. Why now? Why change the law now? Why not in 2017? Why not in 2020? Why not in 2050? Why change it now? If it was a question of inclusivity, if it was a question of bringing people together, why ilikuwa nini ngumu Raila aite Kalonzo, Mudavadi na rafiki yake Wetangula? Nini ilikuwa ngumu Uhuru Kenyatta ataga along William Ruto wakuje in the same table waongee about Kenya? Why is it becoming an exclusive affair ya Uhuru na Raila? Ati ukijaribu hata kuongelelea hiyo ni kama you are intruding on their family affairs. This is not a family document. This is a Kenya document.
Usirudia tena Kenya, unarudia umesema siku ile. Usirudia siku ile. Kios gara, naweza kwa kula stock ya kios. Let's look at the Senate. Let's look at the Senate, Mheshimiwa.
Before that, because when you look at this document, the question of inclusivity is not there. Number two, the question of winner takes it all is now mandatory. It is now mandatory.
Winner take everything.
Winner takes everything. Because obviously, when you go for an election, you must have a lineup. Mimi nitakuwa rais, huyu ndiye atakuwa naibu yangu, huyu atakuwa my prime minister, huyu atakuwa nini, huyu atakuwa waziri. And do you know why they brought ministers to parliament? For simple reason, just like why they take ward development funds to the MCS. The reason is they want this document to pass so easily. So when they want to take it to the counties, the MCS will look at the document and say, "Tuko na ward development fund." And these are the people who've been fighting CDF all through. Kwamba members of the county assembly and members of parliament are legislators. They are not supposed to be executive. They are not supposed to be oversighting or being executive. Now they are including in this particular document. Why? Because they want MCS to vote this document so fast. Why are they trying to please members of parliament? For two reasons. One, members of parliament are politicians. They are the ones who are campaigning outside there. During the time of campaign, kama prime minister ikuji kwenu, kama deputy prime minister ikuji kwenu, unaambiwa tafuta huyu, elect huyu jamaa ndiye akuja akuwe waziri uko bunge. Let's take for example, I'm from Turkana. Wakiona ile politician kalikali Turkana, wanaambia watu huyu ndio waziri yetu ya mabarabara, elect yeye. Alafu huyo politician sasa naye aanze kucampaign vigorously. Tunapewa ministry. That is what they want to please. They wanted to please politicians. Number two, they know of course during the passage in parliament, they would want people to go and campaign, and members of parliament will campaign knowing very well that we will be having ministers in the house, unlike now where we have ministers outside the house. So the question of winner takes it all, the question of imperial president, which you discussed, is pronounced.
Enhanced.
It is even enhanced. And I would say, I don't know, the current leadership that we have, I don't know. Some of them are dictators, some of them are not dictators. But suppose a dictator ascend to power in 10 years' time. What will happen to that? Mtu umeshika umepewa ati judiciary, which was very independent and autonomous. Umeambiwa sasa kuna mtu anaitwa ombudsman. This is a person who is supposed to be disciplining, including even the CJ. This is a person who is supposed to be, now umeniletea class monitor. Sasa sisi wengine tutakuwa tunafanya nini? Unless the president calls, unless somebody from state house calls, atiamua hii kesi iende hivi. That is why we created this ombudsman. This is a monitor that will be actually delivering the message from state house.
It's a CCTV.
What will happen to judiciary? It's like a CCTV. What will happen to judiciary? Independence hakuna. Wataamua kesi as per serikali. Mtu akishikwa kama mimi, jaji ataambiwa wewe weka hiyo mtu ndani mwaka 10.
Unatujua?
Na mimi nawekwa ndani mwaka 10. What will I do? Because the judge knows very well mimi ninaweza vutwa kazi. Issue ingine ni police. We had made police autonomous, but we are now muscling it. Tunaleta sasa ile kitu ingine inaitwa commission ya IPOA yenye itakuwa inaita mapolisi, wanaambia nyinyi mlipigiwa simu hamkufanya venye ilitakikana. Why would we do that? IPOA should have been autonomous in a way that it doesn't have even a minister sitting in that particular commission. It should have been a very independent body that deals with issues to do with police. And then the question of IBC. The question of IBC. The reason why we had a post-election violence in 2007, and people sometimes refer to it as land clashes, 92 land clashes, 91 land clashes. It is never about land clashes. It is never about communities. Because after elections, communities live together. Wanakula shida pamoja.
Until another election comes.
Until another election comes. And this one is about the presidential elections. Because people never fight on parliamentary elections. People never fight on county elections. They always fight on presidential elections. Reason being, hii watu wanasiasa wanakuja wanasema hii kiti ni yetu. Na ukiona watu fulani wanataka kunyang'anya sisi hii kiti. That is when communities rise up and say, let us fight for our man. And that is how people normally go back to post-election violence. The reason why we had the 207 post-election violence was because of IBC, ECK actually, which actually manhandled the electioneering process. The reason why we also had issues in 2017 was because of IEBC, the way they handled the election. Now they are telling us the cure of that particular problem is for the parties to nominate commissioners to that particular commission. Let me ask you a very simple question. You are nominated two from Jubilee, and you nominate two from ODM. Now, when the election comes, when the tallying starts, when the declaration is about to be done, suppose members of Jubilee wameshindwa, do you think the commissioners will sit pretty and say we have accepted the results? We have seen so many occasions in this country where some people wanaenda commissioners, wengine wanaenda kutangaza mambo yao wengine. This is what is going to happen in Kenya. A declaration is made that certain candidate has won. Kama sio ODM, wale IBC commissioners wenye walichaguliwa na ODM wataenda na some of the commissioners, if they are 6 they will take them, or even if they are 10 they will take some of them, waende wa declare Capitol Hill kwamba candidate yetu ameshinda. Wale wa Jubilee watashika pia some of the commissioners, waende watangaze kwingine kwamba candidate yetu ameshinda. Why should we bring even parties on this particular issue? We are not competing as parties. We should have said, let us make this commission very independent, because this is a commission which has been bringing issues in this country. Like when the contested election of 2017, it was not, it had nothing to do with Uhuru Kenyatta. Had nothing to do with Ruto. It had nothing to do with Raila. It had everything to do with IEBC. Yeah. And the problem, I once had an opportunity as a member of Justice and Legal Affairs. Unfortunately, I was removed because I was not loyal to KANU. I went to South Africa as one of the, how do you call those people who go and monitor the elections?
Observers.
As one of the observers. And let me tell you, in South Africa, the ballot boxes are just boxes. Boxes ile ya duka tu unatoa masabuni, alafu unakuja unaiunganisha ndio ikuwe ballot box. You know why? Because they have realized elections are not stolen at the ballot box. Kenyans believe elections are stolen at the ballot box, and I'm telling you, in the next 5 years, tutakuwa na metallic ballot boxes in this country yenye inawekwa kivuli na kuwekwa hata
strong room na kueldiwa polling station.
Elections are not stolen at the ballot. Elections are stolen at the entry, where you determine how many people have voted. By the time you determine who voted for who, you must determine kwanza nani amevote, nani hajavote. Wale watu walikufa wamevote ama bado.
Na wako wangapi?
So in South Africa
hata wale wamekufa lazima ujue kama mpiga kura ama bado.
Wamemka wamepiga kura.
Tunaongelelea na ghost workers kuna ghost voters.
And that is what we have in this country.
We live in our living dead. We believe in our living dead.
Imagine. So when you open the servers, you know it's
there's nothing there.
There's nothing there.
Yeah.
In South Africa, you have a voter's card is like this ATM card. And you see this whatever hii kitu yenye unafinya hizi biometric whatever. It's just like ile ya kuswipe kwa ATM. Kwa ATM, sio kwa ATM, kwa supermarkets. Sikuna ile kitu una swipe, alafu unaenda tu nini unaweka pin, alafu inaonyesha umelipa pesa. That is what they have in South Africa. Alafu it is attached, it's a small equipment which is attached to a charger yenye iwezi isha moto kwa sababu unatembea nayo. So mtu anaingia tu kwa mlango, una swipe card yako, unaambia wewe vote hapa, toka nje. Una swipe, yes, una vote hapa. Ukiswipe wewe umevote.
Hiyo huduma itafanya hiyo huduma namba.
Huduma nini? What are you telling us about huduma namba? Huduma namba is just another.
It's another BBI.
Let me tell you, why is it that tukiambia IBC wanunue equipment? I used to sit in that Justice and Legal Affairs committee, and we used to summon wakina commissioners, and we would ask them, what is the problem? Hii mambo ya kuprocure hizi equipments, why is it taking such a, why is it so expensive? And then when you bring them, tunaambiwa imefanya kazi mpaka saa 4 imefail. Why? Na tulienda na wakina Hassan South Africa. Mimi tulirudi nikamuuliza Hassan, uliona in South Africa what they were using? Hiyo kitu huwezi kufa. Hiyo kitu ukienda supermarket saa hii kuswipe hiyo card, hata watu 10,000 wakiswipe itakufa. Huwezi kufa. You only need to charge it and recharge it and recharge it and recharge it, or put it even on a permanent charger.
Unacheza na Wakenya. Kenya Power watatuzimia stima bana.
Wanakana fine.
Watacheza kama wao.
You bring a complicated equipment yenye huwezi sustain hiyo election. And then you want to tell us at the election imefail. We are failing the elections. So I asked him, and he said, we cannot do that. We cannot do that. It is because of ABCD. But you see, the government do not want to allow such a transparent procurement done. Because they know if they bring this equipment, you never know who is going to win the election. So our fear as politicians is to lose elections. And therefore, we want to manipulate even the equipment that we want to use in having a transparent election. So we can never have a transparent election in this country until we decide that whoever wins, let him win. Let us bring equipment yenye iwezi isha moto, iwezi kwama, iwezi kufa, it is portable. By the time hiyo document inaingiza inaonesha jina Nairobi kwamba umevote na umevote. So you will never change it midway. They could not do that because they do not want a transparent election. I was expecting this document to have that answer, but it doesn't have. So how are we answering the question of rigging? How are we answering the question of post-election violence? Nothing.
We still be the same thing.
Tukijiambia ati yo sijui mulifanya nini, tungoje tutengeneza handshake nyingine. Nothing.
Tukula handshakes mpaka mwisho. Tuangalie mambo ya Senate. There's the issue of the Senate where they're saying that first of all the Senate has been expanded as number one, and the secondly is that the powers that have been taken from him, it's almost disenfranchised in the BBI document, and this is why we are taking in the women. I want us to look at it in a two-prong. Number one is, why have we killed the Senate? Number two, why are you saying we want to empower women in leadership, but you are taking them to already dead Senate? Look at that, Oshimo.
Like I said, nobody's interested in the issues that wananchi wanataka. Nobody's interested. Nobody is interested even with women issues. Hii mambo tunaambiwa tu ati 2/3. Tunakumbuka Maraga alideclare kwamba parliament should be dissolved. Sisi wengine tukaenda jukwaa tukaambia Maraga, ambia president or pea sisi ruhusa tuseme president akikataa ku dissolve parliament.
Si wenyewe tunavunja.
What should happen? What should happen? There should have been a time frame.
Yes.
Maraga angetoa time frame aseme this is my ruling. It is uncontestable. Dissolve parliament within 21 days. Hiyo ikishaisha sasa tungekuwa nyumbani tunajitafutia kura. But because nobody is interested. You know, nobody is interested with women issues. Nobody is interested with people with disabilities issues. Wanakuambia ati tumeenda koti nyingine, tumesimamisha hiyo kitu, imesimama kidogo. I thought, and this is what they were telling us, that they will include that particular answer in the BBI. Mimi myself I thought, and I searched, nilizunguka hii kitu nikitafuta kuona wapi wamesolve hiyo issue ya gender. And this is where I think the drafters of this BBI will bring in at the tail end. At the tail end. And Lucia, you be watchful on this. Kuna mahali kwa constitution inasema it should be the two-third gender should be on elective and appointive. The part which these people yenye wameweka mahali chini huko yenye watabadilisha ni hiyo elective. Utangojea document ya mwisho ikikuja, utaambiwa tumesuluhisha sasa ile shida ya wamama. Tumetoa ile ya elective,
tumeacha appointive,
tuka enhance ile ya appointive ikuwe 50%. Ile ya elective ikuwe kila mtu aje. Kwa sababu let me ask you, they tell you there will be 360 members of parliament. And they told you they have removed the 47 women to the Senate. Now, when you remove the 47 from the National Assembly, it was not in the Senate where we had the issue of 2/3 gender.
Yeah.
It was in the National Assembly.
But now they are removing from the National Assembly wanachukua kwa Senate. And they are not telling you the overall count will be the Senate and National Assembly. Ndio utafuta sasa hiyo 2/3 gender. They are not telling you anywhere how do we solve this problem. And that is why somebody like, I think the governor, Charity Ngilu, proposed that unless you're telling us the 70 members of parliament multiple members of parliament will be women, then you will not have solved the 2/3 gender rule in the National Assembly. They have not done that, and nobody is interested in that. So the idea of taking women representatives to the Senate does not serve any purpose. It will only be waende tu wakae wakule mshahara. Na hiyo ndio vitu unajua, kama hii document ningesema we will be having 210 members of parliament in this house.
It could be banned.
It could have been the best proposal ever. Let us have members of parliament 210. Let us have 47 senators. Period. Hiyo ndio ingefanya hii nje sasa ipumue. But saa hii tumepeleka sasa Senate mpaka 90 something. Tumeleta parliament tena mpaka 360. Reason, you want to please certain people. But let me tell you, in the Senate, you know the Constitution is clear on the roles of the senators. The Constitution states that every county is one vote. It is one vote. And the reason is, and that is why even when we had the revenue allocation debate. As senator, and that is why they had to arrest some senators, like Senator Langat and Senator Malala, and the other senator from Samburu. The reason was they wanted to remove them from voting. And if somebody was to vote, it was to be a delegate. And they knew the delegates they had at that particular time were compliant. So they wanted to arrest them and then remove them from voting and then deny the other senator or the others divide getting those particular votes, which of course they didn't achieve. Now they are bringing in another 47 senators. I don't know in this constitution how they are going to change again to cater for the 47 so that we can now know that every county has 2 votes. And let me tell you, if they have 2 votes, what will happen in a situation where a Senator A votes yes, and Senator B votes no? What will happen? We will be having more statements in the Senate. So what they are doing in the Senate is just killing the Senate. And this is where we are allocating billions of money. We are allocating 35%. And then you are giving those senators playing ground. Unaweka masenators yenye tutajua ukitaka kucheza na hao utacheza na hao, ukitaka kufanya kenye unataka unafanya kenye unataka. But the current senators kenye tunajua it is one vote one county. Then hii ndio ingekuwa solution.
Ingine nukarabate. All right. As we head towards the opening bunge la mwenyenchi, kuna swali hapa mheshimiwa nataka kukuuliza. Umealikwa Naivasha retreat ya Bibia?
Obviously no. The answer is no.
Why? Why? But you are building bridges. Why you know the Naivasha?
Why is the answer obviously?
So it's safe to say the people of EMURUA DIKIR will not be represented.
Why is it obvious?
Oh yeah.
I'm blacklisted. Remember the reason why there was purge in the National Assembly, the removal of members of the committees from the National Assembly and Senate, was majorly because they were preparing ground for the passage of this BBI document. They did not want any competition, they did not want any questions. So why was I removed from Justice and Legal Affairs Committee? Because that is the committee that is going to handle this particular document. So it is from the same thinking, it is from the same background, that those people who are invited to Naivasha are only those people who have agreed to champion this particular document. And they know it. They know those people who will champion. They know those people who will ask a lot of questions. And therefore they based their list on those they know are compliant. So for those of us who will ask a lot of questions, obviously they will not be invited. The same reason why the deputy president is not also invited is because he asked a lot of questions. And these are the questions nobody wants to be asked. They want those questions hidden. So we could not go to Naivasha because of that. And that is why we were asking, where is inclusivity in this particular matter? If we were not invited to Bomas, we are not invited to Naivasha. And let me tell you, you know, there is a part which these people are trying to provoke. They are trying to provoke a certain section of politicians to contest against this particular document. And this is something we have tried so much because as some of us believe that a united Kenya is more important than some of these issues. Well, it will be upon the people themselves to decide whether this document is bad or good. But it should not be from us politicians per se
To tell them.
Because if today we complain that we are not invited to Bomas of Kenya, we are not invited to Naivasha, that means these people want to pass this document the way it is, and that is actually what they want to do, and that is what the agreement they have reached in Naivasha, that we will pass this document the way it is. What will we do? They are provoking us to say, now that you've passed this document the way it is without amendments, then obviously we're going to refuse and contest it. That is what they want. And we thought maybe we should not give them that privilege of having a contest.
The pleasure of a contest.
The pleasure of a contest, so that we have a divided country. But if that is what they want, and let me tell you, if they push us to the wall, we will contest. There are so many erroneous issues in this particular document that will give us food for
your fodder.
Yeah, fodder. So if today we are still asking them that let us amend some of the issues here, which have it has nothing to do with ordinary wananchi. Let us include issues to do with farmers. Let us include issues to do with, because after all, this country, 80% of the GDP in this country is from farming. 80%. Not from industry, not from tourism, farming. But we have not included anything to do with farmers. Look at what is happening. I watched yesterday in some station, the Galana-Kulalu project. It is very disturbing when you realize billions of money have been spent on that particular project. Na imezama. Billions of money, not millions, billions of money.
11 to be exact.
Yes, 11 billion Kenya shillings. Let me ask you.
They promised us 10,000 acres, and we only have 600 acres.
And not even that. Even the production of that 600 acres is so, is so miserable.
Yeah.
I ask you if there was, and we have it in our constitution, what we call public participation. If they had done due diligence, if they had done public participation, waende North Rift, waende Narok, waende Central, waende mahali ukulima iko, Kitale, and then ask those people, what do you want us to do with these 11 billion? We want what we call food security. And let me tell you, food security is not food security to kuwe na chakula tu kwa store. Because we can have food in our stores. We can even import from China, we can import from Mexico, we can import from anywhere and be food secure. But the main reason why we want to create food security is number one, let us make our people produce that food so that other than producing the food, they will also remain with something in their pockets. Wapeleke watoto shule, wafanye vitu yao.
Aja tusikie. Hello, good morning.
Mr. Bitok.
Yes, sir. Good morning. How are you?
I'm very fine.
Araka?
I'm Korea. The issues raised by Mr. Nyano are issues that are based on Mwananchi. Those are issues that ordinary Mwananchi are concerned about. If BBI is actually about Mwananchi, what about the agriculture? Actually, as I call you today, I'm in the farm. There is no any article that articulates on the issues of farm, input, and whatever. If that is BBI for us, then I think this is something that we should down as it comes. Yeah, thank you so much.
Asante sana. Thank you. Unasikia watu wako wakulima. Unasema BBI na mkulima basi si BBI. All right. Proceed.
I was saying if they had what we call public participation to understand what exactly farmers want, what are the needs of the farmers, they would not have invested that money in Galana-Kulalu or something like that.
11 billion. They could have not even subsidized.
They could have asked the farmers what exactly is the problem. The problem is we are producing maize, but nobody is buying it. The problem is we are farming, but the equipment that we use in our farms is not modernized. The problem is we are planting our maize without fertilizer because fertilizer is very expensive. The problem is tuko na ng'ombe ya nyama lakini inakufa wakati wa ukame. Unaona? This is where they should have put the billions of money they spent in that area. Kwamba, what do you want? As a farmer, as a maize farmer, as a wheat farmer, as a potato farmer, as a livestock farmer, as ile moto ya kuweka nini ngamia huko juu. What do you need? Invest on areas where we will have food security on one hand, and we would have empowered the farmers on the other hand.
Yeah.
This is what the document should have talked about.
Yeah, but it is not.
It has nothing to do with that.
All right.
Because
Good morning.
that is not what is important.
Good morning. Hello. Hello. Yeah, amekuja akapotea. All right. Let me open up the panel for a bit. Daktari, as we close, we're going to end in the next 10 minutes.
Okay.
So, Daktari, swing in.
Just before Daktari says something, I'd like to comment on the Galana-Kulalu irrigation scheme. The Galana-Kulalu irrigation scheme was not a plan that was meant to be in a place where food production is. It was not to be in the food baskets. It was a scheme that was supposed to be in a semi-arid area. area so that to enhance food production in semi-arid areas. So the government of Israel was contracted to run the project, and they did. They came, they did all that. They analyzed, they evaluated, they did, and then they gave the government a plan and a budget, and then the government slashed that budget by half in the beginning, and they said no, the issue of sustainability is not paramount, because they wanted to start the project and continue with a program that will sustain it. And then the government says no, the sustainability part is not important, so let's do away with it. They did away with it. So the project now comes to 7 billion, and then this money is stolen through corruption. They lost a lot of that money to corruption. The Israeli government stated that Galana-Kulalu irrigation scheme was the first project that they have ever undertaken, and it failed as a result of corruption. All those things you've said are important. The government should have asked for public participation from farmers. Dr. OJWANG cannot understand this because he does not think representation and inclusivity includes public participation. What? His brain does not comprehend it. But the one thing that the government of Kenya has failed...
I'll take that as an inappropriate. They say that the brain cannot comprehend, that's inappropriate. That's not a proper language.
He used his own words to say that representation and inclusivity has been bundled into something. I don't know what he meant. I don't understand it. But I take that back. Sorry.
Yeah, let's be as well. Let's be rational.
Your brain works perfectly fine at times. You just choose to be dumb.
Selective.
So now, corruption is what really killed Galana-Kulalu irrigation scheme. The Israelites live in a desert, basically, and we've borrowed food from them once. Us who have rich food baskets. So for a project that they have undertaken to produce food to fail does not speak about them. It speaks volumes about us, which brings us to our problem: corruption.
Wow.
Daktari.
Very, very aptly put. You know, as a researcher, I start with the question why. And the question why is very important. As I was telling Mheshimiwa, I'm the one who went to the African Court of Human Rights and got orders. I was part of the OGIEC movement.
Yes.
I'm not an indigenous, but I understand the issues because I'm doing it as a researcher and as an expert. So I'm trying to also move us from this view that just because you see a woman there, with and all you might have in common is she has hair, she has the right color, she has heels, but the issue she's articulating are patriarchal. Follow the issues. That is my point. I've seen, and I sat with the Kenya Christian Professional Forum, and there is a way that we sometimes, in terms of sectorial, we become straight-jacketed, where you find that the Kenya Christian, we are simply asking, how come abortion is not dealt with? And I'm telling them, if the judiciary is not independent, it is an issue for Christian. It's an issue for youth. It's an issue for people with disability. So if the evolution is weakened, it's an issue for people with disability. It's an issue for youth. So I'm trying, and Lucia have exceeded my expectation in this, because she's not a one-issue kind of a voter or person. But there is the new crop where youth issue becomes simply, as the BBI proponent think, that lone issue. No. Executive or imperial presidency affect youth just as it affects the old people. So in terms of mobilization and in terms of activism, let us comprehend and have broader issue. And that's why I was saying, maybe it didn't come out well, that there is no society for disabled. That does not mean they are not invisible, but every clause in this BBI affect disabled people. So I don't expect a disabled group to simply come and say, you have removed our representation, and then they keep quiet. They should look at the agriculture, because they also farm. They should look at the issue of empowerment, of inclusivity, of tribalism. Do you know the cancer of this country, before we talk of disability or gender, is regionalism? And there is this rush of concentrating on this physical or visible disability or marginalization, and forget that at the end of the day the president started by appointing 4 people from their community as the minister. And that can even be women from their community, and then they tell you, well, you know what, women are represented. So let us have a comprehensive view on this. Finally, when you hear words like, this is not time to talk, guys. This is not time to divide this country. You know very well that person wants you to divide the country. Yeah. If you hear somebody saying, peace, 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 it means there is no peace. So when you hear words like brothers, yes, there might be a little difference. There might be a little article that didn't come out well, but this is the time to support the process. Lest nobody be found dividing this country. You can see that I'm advising you to reject those languages, those propositions. Words conceal more than they reveal. Words are metaphor of something. They mean something. Finally, South Africa made a mistake because they made constitution for Mandela. And they thought, as long as we had Mandela, it didn't matter whether we didn't tell the president, you cannot reward your cronies, because Mandela will do the right thing. But guess what? Mandela left. Then they realized Zuma is not Mandela. But the constitution belonged to Mandela. And when it was Mandela, there was no problem. But now that it is Zuma, there is problem. As we look at BBI, and that is what Martha Karua is asking us, think of your worst enemy or your best enemy. I don't know which one scares you the most. but so don't make constitution for Baba, because Baba is good according to you, and he emanates everything good, and even if he has the imperial presidency, if you think he will get it, he will do the right thing. Don't make constitution for Mandela. Make constitution for the worst case scenario. Make constitution for, suppose Mobutu become our president, so that you have allowance and you avoid heartache. Finally, I'm saying that some of the proposals are unintelligent. For example, how do you have a cabinet where one is a politician and a member of parliament, the other one is a technocrat? Is there synergy? Do they align? So when this person is doing politics, how does this other cabinet know now this one is politicking or representing their constituency?
Let me wait first.
Now we are into the executive. Are we back to the executive meeting? So what is this? So there is a lot of unintelligible things in that proposal. Our devolution was meant to mirror the executive, so that as we have the president, we also have the governor. Now, does the governor also appoint opposition leader? How about prime minister? Because they are supposed to be seamless. They are supposed to be cohesive among our constitution. Finally, they say that, I was looking at even the charges that Mheshimiwa had. I've always been in view that the issue of leadership, when you become a leader, grow a thick skin, understand Article 10 and 6 that require that you will be accountable. So if Mheshimiwa here went and picked on somebody who is there eating his cola nut somewhere in the village and ask him those tough questions, it will be incitement. But if you are asking somebody who has a public office, and that's why countries like US have heightened the standard, that before we say you have even defamed somebody in the office, we have to prove it is malicious. Yeah. We have to prove that it has nothing to do with their function, because otherwise we are chilling. And there's a chilling effect to accountability. The Alvin Toffler finally tell us that the illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read and write, but those who cannot learn and relearn. We are in a moment that we need to learn and relearn. Thank you.
All right, that's all for the
That's a microphone dropping moment, isn't it?
Yes, that's a mic drop. That's a mic drop. All right, Mheshimiwa, because of time, there's just one question I want to throw to you, and you answer it in a very brief way. Let's look at BBI. Let's assume the options that are there for William Ruto, first of all, is to contest or to support, to let it go. Now, assume this thing goes through, or assume the William Ruto says, all right, let it go. Who are bound to gain and who are bound to lose between Raila Odinga, Uhuru Kenyatta, and William Ruto?
Answering all that, although, of course, I'm
I'm not Ruto's spokesperson, but I believe as a politician and as a person who sees what is going on, I think what Ruto is asking, based on even the speech he gave in Bomas of Kenya and the speeches he's been giving all through, is that there are some amendments that he wishes be changed in that particular document so that it can be in tandem with the wills and wishes of the people of this republic, especially on the issue of the judiciary, on the issue of IBC, on the issue of police, and especially also to include issues to do with farmers and the small mwananchi down there. I think those are the issues he wishes to be changed. But if the document passes the way it is, I do not know also if he wishes to contest or no, because obviously I also believe that he doesn't want to have a brutal contest against the president, his boss. And that is why I think maybe at some point he might opt to just support the document the way it is, or even with amendments. Now who will be the loser, will be the winner in this particular document? This document is a win-win for politicians, but of course the losers will be you who are wananchi. But for us politicians, it is going to be a win-win.
It's Christmas.
It is Christmas for us all. For Uhuru Kenyatta, how is Uhuru Kenyatta going to benefit from this document? The question of the Prime Minister. Uhuru Kenyatta will either be the Prime Minister or pop up a Prime Minister and fund him, because remember, we are going to be voting in Parliament. Those members of Parliament, the moment they are elected there, wanaanza mambo yao ya tumbo. So wakifika huko, mtu mwenye atatoa milioni 10, elect me as a Prime Minister, ndiye anachukua Prime Minister. So that position will be taken by
to be bought,
money.
not taken, bought.
It is going to be bought by a person who has money. So if Uhuru Kenyatta is strategically positioned for that position, or positioning somebody for that position, then obviously he's going to carry the day, and Uhuru Kenyatta would be happy. For Raila, Raila also, like I told you, he had only one bullet, and that bullet is now it's been reloaded. So if Raila was to play his game properly, obviously what Raila wants, he wants to be the president. He wants to put somebody from Mount Kenya as a prime minister. He wants to pick somebody from Ukambani as a deputy president. Or he wants to pick somebody from Luya as a deputy president and pick the other one as a deputy prime minister. Those are the game plans of Raila, and somebody from Coast. Ruto will also, if the document passes the way it is, Ruto will also pick his prime minister from Mount Kenya. He will pick his running mate from Western, and he will speak.
Sasa ndio nasikia siasa sasa.
And then he will pick.
Ndio kupanga sasa.
And then he will pick his deputy from the deputy prime minister from Ukambani, and maybe another one from the coast. So if Raila was to go to coast and pick Joho as the deputy prime minister, Ruto will go to coast, Kilifi, and pick Kingi as the deputy prime minister. If Raila goes to Ukambani and pick Alonso,
he'll pick Mudhama or Alfred.
He will pick Mudhama or Mutua or my friend, or learned friend, huyu mwakili Professor Kibwana,
yes,
as to contest against Kalonzo Musyoka. If Raila picks Mudavadi, and obviously Ruto will pick Oparanya. You know, so it will now be a question if Raila picks Peter Kenneth in Central, Ruto will pick the most popular candidate in Central. So it will now be upon them who will carry the day. Nani atachukua kura mingi ya Central, nani atabeba kura mingi ya Western, nani atabeba kura mingi ya Coast. That is where it is. So the winner will be that person who picks the right candidates for those particular positions.
It's like a supermarket.
It's like a supermarket.
Self-selection.
And then there will be ministries. To dish here and there. Wataenda Narok, waambia wa Masai nyinyi chukua hii ministry. Ruto akuje naye pia ambie napea nyinyi hii ministry. Waenge Turkana. So there will be that game. So this thing is just for politicians. Waji position, how do they position themselves? So
kama tayari mshaipangia hiki kitu.
Uko sure hiki tu amjapanga.
Ni kama mshaipangia.
You know by the way mheshimiwa.
2022 ifike.
Wewe kazi yako ni kuwipe sahi kutengeneza hiyo kadi yako na kupiga kura.
You know by the way mheshimiwa, I'm wondering how this thing will hurt even Ruto. Because it actually bolster his...
It won't. I'm telling you, as we speak now, this document is tailored.
So then we are
for
all
William
winners.
Ruto. so I don't know. I don't even understand why Raila is so enthusiastic. Why Uhuru Kenyatta is so enthusiastic at you. But I think it is because at least each one of them wanasema hii ni yangu. Hii is ni yangu.
Bila kujua. All right.
Bitok. Lastly, I want to just go through some issues.
Yes.
Slightly because I know
That's your last shot.
My last shot. What has killed this country? And let me tell you, Kenyans are good people, very good people. They forget things so easily, and I think that is a gift we were given by God. If you are people who could be remembering ABCD,
it's a gift and a curse.
It's a coping mechanism.
It's a gift
And a curse.
Why? Because we forget even those who wronged us the other day. We forget about, like, if there's a corruption case today,
Tomorrow we've forgotten. We have moved on.
Tunapiga makelele 1 week tunasahau. Mtu akishikwa leo, kama na akishikwa leo, tunapiga makelele, the following day tumesahau. Akifika kurudi tena kuomba kura, tunasahau kwamba huyu mtu alikuwa corrupt. So Kenyans and people have been taking advantage of that. That is why people steal from us. That is why ministers steal from us. That is why governors steal from us. That is why I was asking another politician, hii mambo unaiba hii yote hii, my friend, utafanyia nini? Akasema, my friend, future ikifika, ukitaka kiti Kenya hii, lazima ukue na pesa. Kama huna pesa, hakuna mtu anakupea kura. So that is why we are also, as members of the public, motivating these politicians to steal from us. We are making it known that unless you have money, you can never be a governor. You can never be a president. We are making these people believe, and this is where the question of dynasties and hustlers come in. We are making dynasties believe that the reason why we keep on electing them is because they have the money. It's because they have the name and the money. The day we decide that we cannot elect somebody because of money, like when I was contesting in Kilgoris, not in EMURUA, in Kilgoris, people fundraised for me. I will go to a meeting na nipata watu wamechanga shilingi 5, shilingi 2, shilingi 10. If we can come to that kind of leadership,
can we clone those Kilgoris?
If we can go back to that,
Watu wa Kilgoris.
So how do we kill corruption? Corruption is what is killing this country. Corruption. Look at Galana-Kulalu. Look at the laptops we promised our people.
Aurora and Kimwarer.
Look at the SGR, how it was inflated. If you were to go to Ethiopia or even Tanzania, what we did in Kenya is just, you can't even imagine. People are supposed to be taken to ICC because of that corruption. If you look at water dams, the dams we've been talking about, from Kimwarer, from whichever dam, all the projects we did in this country were exaggerated. There is no particular dam which was built with the money that is supposed to be used. Look at the counties. County governments have also become a haven of corruption. You look at the money we have sent to the counties vis-a-vis the development of issues they have done in this country. You can't believe it. So counties have also been white elephants. These are areas where people go and steal. The other issue which I wanted to leave Kenyans with is the question of tribalism. If Kenyans will one day take the route of Lucias, the Baluya community in this country, then this country can change.
And the Kisses.
And the Kisses and the Masais. You know, Kisses normally divide themselves. Unapata wengine wako Jubilee, wengine wako ODM. Lakini hiyo ni kujaribu kusema, wacha wengine waende ODM, ndio ikipita, tukue
bado tuko ndani. Ni hesabu, ni karata.
Hesabu hiyo ni hesabu.
Ya Waluya ndio ina hesabu, ni democracy.
The Waluya ni democracy.
Hakuna hesabu.
It is not about hesabu. Mluya anakuambia ninataka Ruto kwa sababu naona huyu jamaa ataniletea nini. Ama nataka Raila kwa sababu naona Raila atabadilisha maisha yangu. Hata mpaka anasahau kumbe nilikuwa na Mudavadi hapa. So if we take the route of the Luya community in this country, then this country will change completely, because the leaders we elect are not meant to be from our clans or tribes. Because when we finish the tribes, we go to clans. When we finish clans, we go to sijui ile watu wako na majina zetu. Appointments, like my brother OJWANG said, you are a president of the Republic of Kenya. Why do you still have to appoint people from your background? Why do you have to appoint people from your family? Why do you still have to appoint them? Is it not enough ukiwa na hiyo position kuserve hiyo watu? Is the position you are holding not enough even to serve the people where you come from? So this question of appointments, appointing people from the same tribe, is like the question of division of revenue, which was contested in the Senate. why would counties that have had presidents
Still want to have more.
is so greedy ati bado wanataka kunyang'anya ile watu wanatoka county ya Lamu. Inye hawawezi kuwa na president kwa maisha hii yote mpaka Mungu avunje hii dunia. Wao kunyang'anya pesa watu ya Pokot, I mean watu ya Turkana ama watu ya Narok. Uwezi nyang'anya hiyo pesa ati unapeleka Rift Valley. Rift Valley have had a president for 24 years. Rift Valley are having a vice president, deputy president.
So let's
Rift
about the
Valley
regions
might have a president even in future.
Yeah.
Central have had President Jomo Kenyatta, Kibaki, and now Uhuru Kenyatta, and now they are going to have prime minister. So you see, why do we have to deny those counties that we know may never, because of our tribal backgrounds
and
will
balkanization,
never have a president in this country? We deny them those little money through the counties. So we must also remove that one from ourselves.
Okay.
Lastly, are the speeches we had in Bomas. People spoke.
Yeah.
And I think Kenyans heard them. Raila spoke as a statesman. You know, I used to follow Raila a lot until he had a handshake with Uhuru Kenyatta. Is when I started doubting mzee. Huyu mzee sasa rafiki yangu tumetoka naye mbali. Hii maneno bwana umejiingiza wapi? But I think Raila had two issues. The last bullet and also issue with Ruto. You know, Ruto was with him in 2013. I mean in 2007.
Yes.
But 2013 Ruto akaruka yeye akaenda Uhuru Kenyatta. So I think Raila ako na revenge on a vengeance mission. Kwamba kwa nini Ruto anafikiria ni yeye peke yake anaweza enda Mount Kenya na kuharibu. So hata mimi Raila naweza enda Mount Kenya na kuharibia Ruto. Tuende nyumbani pamoja, mwingine asende presidency, tuende tukule njaa pamoja. I think that is one of the reasons why Raila also opted to do that. Ruto spoke.
Yeah.
And I think as per the situation which has been in government, venye ametengwa, venye amefanywa ABCD, I think spirit imekujia Ruto. Holy Spirit imekujia Ruto, imefungua kichwa yake. Imeanza kuona kweli kuna shida huko chini. And that is where we as people have been fighting for. Kwamba kuna watu huko chini. Kuna mtu hajawahi vaa kiatu. Kama mimi the first time nilivaa kiatu I was I think 18 years. Hata sikuwa najua namba ya kiatu yangu. I had to go to barter shop nipime. And that was not even the end. Nafikiria nilipoanza kuvaa kiatu ya kwanza ilikuwa namba 10. Kwa sababu mguu ilikuwa sio kama wewe Lucia unavaa kiatu ukizaliwa.
Mguu ile umetafuta position peke yake.
You are like my daughter. Ajui kitu inaitwa kukanyaga chini. Lakini mimi nikapima namba 10, nikarudi namba 9, nikarudi namba 8, saa hii mimi navaa namba 7. Unaona?
Wagundua kumbe mguu ilikuwa ndogo, ni maisha ndio ilikuwa ngumu.
Na mama yangu same subgroup.
There are so many Kenyans who do not know the number of their shoe. There are so many Kenyans who do not know what lunch is. Wanaambiwa chai asubuhi, jioni, sasa. Hakuna ya kukula hapa katikati. And that is what Ruto is trying to talk to. And I think Holy Spirit imekujia Ruto and he's speaking on behalf of many Kenyans. And you know, let me tell you what Kenyans are saying now. We don't care who is saying it. And this is a phenomenon we have almost countrywide or worldwide. You know, leaders are not elected. Viongozi wachaguliwi. Wale wako viti ndio wanaangushwa. So sometimes people can use anything. Sasa ile tu wamechoka na wewe wanasema please toa hata mbwa kutoa hii mtu. By the time wanakuja realize huyu mtu ni aina gani,
wale wengine shaya.
So the conversation Kenya is having now is not about Ruto. They don't even care to know whether Ruto is a thief, like what they are saying, whether Ruto is a corrupt person, whether Ruto is a dictator, whether Ruto is what. The conversation Kenyans want now is there is somebody
who is finishing
on the table, high table there, who is talking on our behalf. At least somebody anaongea mambo yetu, mambo ya wheelbarrow, mambo ya mkokoteni, mambo ya hizi vitu, and that is even where my heart is. When I hear him talking about those things, I don't know if he will change. I don't know if he will change. I don't know. But as long as we use that platform to articulate issues affecting the ordinary mwananchi, let us use it. Wacha tutumie hiyo platform. Tukishatoa hii dynasties.
We can have a different conversation.
Ndio turudi sasa tukae chini tuseme Naruto naye ako aje.
Asante sana.
Kama ni mtu mzuri, Mungu asaidie yeye aongoze. Kama atakuwa mbaya hata yeye, sisi tutakuwa hapo. 2027 tutakuwa hapo kupiga debe mpaka mtu aende. But myself, and this is what I really yearn for. I think Kenya should clean this political mess. We need to have a clean slate. If in 2027 we will not be having jina ya Uhuru kwa ballot, jina ya Raila kwa ballot, jina ya Moi kwa ballot, jina ya hizi dynasties wamesumbua, hata ya Ruto in 2027. We have new people. Tuanze hata kuwa na majina kama Lucia yenye mtu anauliza na huyu Lucia yule aliongea siku moja mpaka
nikachamuka kidogo.
I think that is the Kenya we want to have in future. Let us not have the same ideas over recycling the same people over and over. Mudavadi spoke, by the way. It's only that Mudavadi is becoming watermelon too. You know Kalonzo is watermelon one. And he's akisema nini leo Kalonzo hakuna mtu anapigia yeye kelele. Anasema tu hiyo ni tabia yako, tumekupea hiyo
na tumekubali.
You are consistent.
You are consistent with your watermelon. But Mudavadi is becoming another watermelon.
And he is because
Ojwang, masani mbaya Ojwang. Masani mbaya. I'll not allow you to interject. Wacha tuache mheshimiwa abalize because time.
Okay. Mudavadi is becoming a watermelon. Today anaongea ati Ruto hajatendi mkutano ya sijui BBI forum, sijui una defy president, sijui unaongea juu una divide the country, ati you are making have and have nots to fight, the rich and the poor, the hustlers and the dynasties. Let me tell you, if that conversation is what is going to make this country change, if it is a revolution led by Lenin that changed Russia, if it is a revolution that was written by Karl Marx that changed the world, then we have to go that direction. And we don't care whether the haves wanna feel the pinch. We don't care whether dynasties wanna skia mbaya. We don't care. What we care is to make this country equal. Let us make this country equal at all cost. Na usituambie uongozi lazima ikue ni wewe. Sio hata mimi. Even me Ngong nimeshinda nikiambia watu yangu mwaka 10 nimepata pension. You can elect somebody else. I do not need to become a dynasty in my own backyard. So I want to tell Mudavadi, think hata wewe ni kijana ya Moses Mudavadi dynasty. So saa zingine wewe simama na watu, ongea ukweli ya watu. Vijana Lucia, mko na babu Owino kwa bunge, yeye ni kijana. Mko na Theuri, yeye ni kijana. Mko na nani, yeye ni hata mimi, mko na mimi ni kijana. Why are we not articulating issues to do with youths?
Mpaka kigeugeu pia kanda.
Tukibeba wanasiasa tu, tukisikia mwanasiasa ameongea hivi tunaenda tunapigia salute. The reason why I get arrested every now and then, the reason why I get humiliated every now and then is because I don't do that. I don't salute anybody. Hata Ruto tuko na yeye saa hii, but the day he messes up the country, he will be my political enemy. So mimi nataka tuseme ukweli. Wakati vijana wamepewa nafasi, articulate the issues ya vijana. Wakati watu with disabilities wakipewa nafasi, articulate issues to do with people with disabilities. Wakati wamama wakipewa nafasi, articulate issues to do with wamama. Ukiona wamama wamevunjiwa manyumba Ruai, hawana nyamaza. Ukiona wamama wamefungiwa nje huko Mau, hawana nyamaza. Ukiona wamama wanamwagiwa pombe kama ile alikuwa anamwagiwa pombe Uazingishu, hawana nyamaza. Msingoje tu saa ile mtu ameguza mama ya dynasty, mnaanza kubabaika, mnaanza kupiga manduru, mnaanza kufanya maandamano. Hiyo ni bure, hiyo hatusikii hiyo.
Ndio wala baraka, lazima sana tutafunga na hapo. Mheshimiwa, umesema finally mingi.
Kuna kitu nilikuwa kwa speeches finally ndio namalizia mtu
funga na hiyo. Funga hiyo tafadhali.
Baba na Mama Pendo. I was very disappointed. They came with very good ideas, actually talking to the nation, telling people they should not fight again. It should have been only Pendo's blood. And we have so many Mama Pendos in this country. And we have so many Pendos who have died for this country. I wished Mama Pendo was not just being put in that podium to sanitize this stupid and useless document. I only hope so. Because when you look at what Mama Pendo said and Baba Pendo, they said, Mama Pendo aliongea ukweli kabisa, akamaliza akaenda akasema siende ndani sana. But Baba Pendo alisema nimepata hii nafasi.
Alipaswa mariki.
Siwezi pata tena. President yako hapa, deputy yako hapa, Raila yako hapa, kila Mkenya ana watch TV. 40 million Kenyans. Kaambia president, why have you left us? Mbona umeacha sisi? That means walipelekewa tu script, wakanunuliwa manguo, clean clothes ya kuja kuvaa huko Bomas, kuja soma hii kitu, maliza enda kaa. Those people should have been invited previously, either to Capitol Hill or State House, waulizwe nyinyi, tunaomba msamaha, mtoto wenu aliuawa na wengine wengi. Let us look at your issues before we go to Bomas. So that by the time wanakuja Bomas, they can really talk about how they have benefited from the government. And so many other people who went through post-election violence. Sometimes watu wana raise hiyo issue ya post-election violence ati wakitaka kuhumiliate mtu fulani. But they are not raising it majorly for those people who were living in camps na wenye walipoteza mali yao. There should have been in this country what we had in South Africa. Truth and reconciliation. Where you identify the people who are affected by the violence, post-election violence. Compensate them. Make their lives happy again. Educate their children. Put money in their accounts to assist them to come back to normal. Those are the things we should be doing.
That is true reconciliation.
Not bringing them kwa podiums ati wakuja wa read speeches, wa sanitize document kama hii. That was very unfair. That was very unfortunate.
Okay.
Thank you.
Asante sana mheshimiwa. Thank you so much for coming in. It was a pleasure to have you. We look forward to having you again soon. Asante sana. There's some polls I had run and I would want to read them. There was my first poll was as Johanna Ngeno delivered as MP. Yes was 96% and no was 4%. Yes, kumbe uko na watu pia. Sasa hiyo ni makofi kwako. So the second poll was is the executive structure proposed in BBI inclusive? Yes was 7%, no was 93%. All right. The last one was have women been empowered in BBI? Yes was 5%, no was 95%. All right. Taklas, asante sana. Thank you so guys. Thank you so much for Taklas who have been tuning in. It's always a pleasure to have you guys. Asante sana. Tomorrow tuko na jamaa anaitwa Boniface Mwangi. Alikuja tuambia mambo ya soft the film, atuambia maisha yake ya inaitwa nini? Demonstration inaitwa nini kwa Kiswahili? Kusunguka kwa barabara miaka mingi. Na kukunywa tear gas ya maandamano. Ya kukula maandamano. Ili kama tell us tomorrow's going. But it's a pleasure to have you. Asante sana. Tumeweka kwa more than almost 3 hours. Poleni sana extend by 2 hours. But kwa sababu watunge waache hiyo conversation katikati, you must have had it whichever way. Thank you so much for tuning in. And finally hatutakuwa na tackles of the day kwa sababu ya wakati, lakini we look forward to having you again tomorrow. This is a tackle and the tackle ends now. See you tomorrow. Bye bye.